Hello everybody, Flamin' Shark back with another video, and today we're going to be jumping into our second part of Danganronpa 0. So we're going to read more of this story. I have no idea how far we're going to get into it, but we read the prologue and the first 3 chapters of Danganronpa 0 in the first video. It was a little under 2 hours, so probably going to go with a longer video. Recording this in the morning at 6:43 a.m., so I'll probably just go for a few hours and then see how it goes. Compared to when I recorded the first one, my voice is much better, so I think I'll be able to manage a lot more, but I have no idea how long this necessarily will take. And yeah, let me actually once again take off my headphones. I don't know why I have them on in the first place, because I don't need them on for this, because there's no audio that I need to hear, and it's just kind of a talking into a mic. That's really all it is. You guys will get some background music. I'll probably put some in. I did for the first episode, but I'm excited to read some more Danganronpa 0, learn more about Matsuda, learn more about Ryoko, and learn more about kind of the origins of the tragedy, potentially. Like I said, we're at the point in the story where obviously Izuru is already popped some people, and that's a problem, and the reserve course is sussing about, and you know that Junko is manipulating the situation in the background. So there's a lot going on here, and I'm just curious how like the story of Ryoko and Matsuda will tie into all of that. Like I said, I kind of my earliest theory is that they might be despairs. They might be people that are touched by Junko. Ryoko, for obvious reasons, given her lack of memory, I could easily see how Junko could potentially manipulate her, and Matsuda could get manipulated by Junko because of Ryoko, because I suspect that Matsuda feels very similarly about Ryoko that Ryoko does about Matsuda. So I get the feeling there's a scenario where Junko's able to use how he really feels about our redhead here and manipulate him and turn him into the worst version of himself. So that's kind of where early on, that's like earliest theory, because I definitely expect these two to have an impact in all of this. I expect this to connect to everything else. Like I said, this is something that obviously in no way, shape, or form did I need to understand Danganronpa 2. I don't know if I'll need it to understand Danganronpa 3, or what have you, but I'm imagining that this is the type of thing, like I said, there's a fine balance between enhancing stuff, but also being too important. So I am curious how this was balanced. Obviously, this was, if I'm not mistaken, like after Danganronpa 1, this was the first like Danganronpa official content made after Danganronpa 1. So this is one of the first things made in this series. But obviously, knowing that it wasn't kind of the main material, I am curious how deep it ties in. Given that. But anyways, we are starting with chapter 4, so I'm just going to scroll down here. Boop. Alright. Oh, it looks like this might be through the perspective of Matsuda. Alright, here we go. I do have kind of a frog in my throat, but I'm way better than I was when I tried to record this before. A short while after leaving the laboratory, Yasuke Matsuda stood in front of a large door that exuded a solemn atmosphere and straightened his posture. What are you so nervous about? He wanted to mock himself, but at the same time realized nervousness was inevitable. It was the first time he'd ever stepped into Hope's Peak Academy's inner sanctum, the faculty building. Oh, is he having a meeting with, like, teacher or possibly Mr. Kirigiri? It was the only building that students were forbidden from entering, after all, and sure enough, he had to explain the situation to several teachers who stopped him along the way. That wasn't enough, though. His final destination was itself a special place, even within this forbidden building. Yasuke Matsuda raised his head and stared at the door in front of him. It was a pretentiously decorated wooden door that gave him the feeling visitors weren't welcome. The metal plate set in it read, Hope's Peak Academy's steering committee meeting room. Oh, Jesus Christ, bro. Bro about to meet the whole fucking seal over here. This was, so to speak, the inner sanctum's inner sanctum. Even the teaching staff were not to walk in uninvited. Nervousness truly was inevitable for someone about to enter such a special room. But nevertheless, pull yourself together. Matsuda quietly cleared his throat. He tried to build up some semblance of courage before he ended up swallowed whole by the oppressing atmosphere. Then, he raised his fist and knocked twice on the door. Yasuke Matsuda, from Hope's Peak Academy's 77th class, he announced. Slowly pushing the heavy door open. Excuse me. The room was different from a classroom as could be. The ceiling, pillars, and walls were excessively decorated in a way that Matsuda found gloomy rather than dignified. He stepped forward, the sound of his footsteps swallowed by the thick carpet. We apologize for calling you here on such short notice. The voice was surprisingly... Oh, okay, it was Jin. The voice was surprisingly light and pleasant. It belonged to Hope's Peak Academy's headmaster, Jin Kirigiri. Okay, so Gendo's here too. It's not just fucking Seal. Every time Matsuda saw the man, he couldn't help but be astounded by how young he was. In his mind, a headmaster was a middle-aged man with white hair, a mustache, and a drab suit. Kirigiri, still in his 30s, was just too young for the job and looked even younger. Damn, he must have had Kyoko at a very young age. Probably not far off from Kyoko's age when he had Kyoko. Please, take a seat. We wouldn't expect you to stand during our conversation. A large circular table stood in the middle of the room, with antique chairs lined up all around it. Excuse me, Matsuda said as he sat in the nearest chair, placing him directly across the table from Kirigiri. From the moment he sat down, he could feel several pairs of eyes staring intently at him. They belonged to 4 old men who sat around the table at set intervals. Every one of them wore a pitch-black suit and tie as if attending a funeral. Their appraising glare felt to Matsuda as if each one of them were breathing down the back of his neck. Bro, this shit's so creepy. What the fuck? Do you know who we are? The voice was rusty, and Matsuda couldn't tell which old man it belonged to. You're the steering committee, yes? You have our sincere gratitude for all of your help following that incident. I don't know what you're talking about. The wrinkles on the old men's faces deepened. They didn't care to dance around the topic at hand. There's no need to be cautious here. We know everything, one of the old men said. You helped us with the interrogation of the student who first discovered the scene, didn't you? Said another. The student who first discovered the scene. So I'm assuming we're talking about Izuru's massacre. The second... I don't know who the first... I don't know who that could be. I mean, I guess it's possible it could be Ryoko. It's actually very possible. In fact, it's actually probably likely it's Ryoko. Because that would be extra complicated if it was. The second Matsuda heard those words, his heart began to beat faster. He tried to hide it by asking a question of his own. You intend for me to interrogate them again? Not at all, a different old man shook his head. This time we are dealing with a different student. We have a problem, you see. A problem that someone in your field of expertise should be able to solve. We are looking forward to your help. He spoke as if the matter was already settled, a detail that Matsuda found worrying. What if I refuse? A few seconds of silence later, one of the old men started to laugh. It was a quiet laugh at first, but soon the second, third, and then the fourth old man joined. Filling the room with scornful laughter, their voices descended on Matsuda from every angle. Man, these guys are fucking assholes. They're really like exactly how I'm picturing them. That's wild. Ah, Matsuda. Do you really believe you have a choice in the matter? The old man spoke in a condescending tone. That girl you've been treating, despite her leave of absence from our school, her health doesn't seem to have improved at all. This time, it was Matsuda's wrinkles that deepened as he frowned. What are you trying to say? You are still a student. We can't have you wasting your time on a dunce with no hope of recovery. His words were overflowing with contempt. The way we see it, we can't keep extending a student's temporary leave when we don't even know when or if she'll be able to return. This facility's purpose is to nurture talent. Those who are too much of a failure to use it should simply step down for the other students' sake. That said, if you agree to help us... Shut the fuck up, old man! What? You talk too much. You never shut up. No, you talk too much, and you're spouting nothing but fucking nonsense. The room's atmosphere changed in a second, and the tension skyrocketed. Yeah, something tells me the steering committee are not used to people talking to them like that. Why, you insolent! Matsuda stood, and the old man froze. He looked at them as if they were nothing but worms. No, his stare was filled with far more anger and contempt than that. He looked at them as though they were worms he was about to trample upon. Dunce, failure, let me tell you one thing. I am the only one who's allowed to say those things to her. No one else has any right to. Damn, there you go. And there you go. You see how protective he is of her deep down. There is a bit of that. It's interesting. It's interesting that I'm very curious about this love story. I get the feeling this love story is going to be really tragic. I don't know if one of them's going to die. Both of them are going to die, because obviously we've never seen Ryoko or Matsuda before. That has me a little concerned as to where this necessarily is going, but I do think it's interesting because one of the things, like I said, I have considered the possibility, and I wasn't able to logically piece it together, but given the fact that her memory is so fucked, I did loosely consider the possibility that Ryoko could be another person that we've already met, like another one, like a girl, and obviously, again, specifically talking about the Danganronpa 2 characters, because if my theory is right, that one or both of them are going to get turned into despairs by Junko, I could then extrapolate that maybe we've met Ryoko before in her kind of true form, so to speak. But there's so many holes in that, and I can't piece it together for any of the girls from Danganronpa 2, so it just doesn't... I can't piece that together. But I just get the feeling... Like, I know Danganronpa well enough to be on the lookout for crazy plot twists, so... When we have a girl who doesn't remember her own fucking shit, and everything's built on a fucking notebook, like, that's so sus. And that's on top of the fact that they've implied that she has a crazy, like, potentially mental power, skill, ultimate, whatever you want to call it. Anyways, hey, who do you think you're talking? I said, shut the fuck up. His tone immediately silenced the men once more, and he continued speaking in a low voice. That girl... Even when people make fun of her or call her stupid, she brushes it off because she thinks it has nothing to do with her. That's why I have to speak up for her. I wouldn't be able to live with myself if I didn't. To the ears of the steering committee members, his words carried an indescribable sense of intimidation. How could they be so overpowered by someone not yet in his 20s? They did not know the answer. They did not understand the power someone who possessed talent had. The power which Hope's Peak Academy called hope. And that's a really interesting thing, because when you think about it, right, the steering committee is just a bunch of Nagitos. They're a bunch of old men that basically think the exact same way as Nagito. And Nagito admires Hope's Peak Academy because Nagito is essentially the physical embodiment of Hope's Peak Academy's beliefs. Like, he, and this kind of goes into some of the really brilliant writing of Danganronpa 2, obviously. Hajime admired Hope's Peak Academy because he had a false ideal of what Hope's Peak Academy was and what it represented. Whereas Nagito admired Hope's Peak Academy because Hope's Peak Academy was exactly what he thought it was. He loved everything that Hope's Peak Academy did, everything that they stood for, because Nagito is meant to be a physical representation of the concept of Hope's Peak Academy. Nagito Komaeda is Hope's Peak Academy in character form. And that's how they emphasize, and they use Nagito to emphasize just how fucked up this is. Now, obviously, Nagito is one of the most popular characters because he's fucking goated. So to some extent, that idea backfired a little bit because he's so fucking cool. But I think, for anyone who's logical, it still makes sense. It's still, okay, it still makes sense, and it's still sussed up. Okay, I know, god damn it, did the same thing again, I could tell, and I know when it does it. So this is, like, actually a really annoying thing, because I have my headphones, right, and it's Bluetooth, and the way I'm recording the screen, but because I'm not, like, playing any audio or anything, I'm not using my headphones for anything, eventually they automatically turn off, and that sets off my, screen capture to stop. And this happened in the first video, and it happened way later, though. It happened, like, 80 minutes in. Whereas here, it just happened right now, and now I get why it happens, and that's actually really fucking annoying. So I'm gonna have to, I don't know how to, because I don't have, like, a direct, like, headphone jack or anything for my computer. So, yeah, that's actually kind of sussy. I guess I don't want to record it that way. That's actually really annoying. I guess I'll just sync it up. By just starting it, and then I'll just manually match it. Okay. Anyways, never mind that. I'm just gonna start my screen capture again. Now it should go. Yeah, it should go. I shouldn't have any issues. But when I get to the end of this page, I'm just gonna do like a 3, 2, 1, go type thing. Anyways, may I interrupt? Oh, this is Kirigiri. A slow voice forced its way into the conversation belonging to Kirigiri. Matsuda turned his coercive stare toward him. It's just that I think I'd prefer to contribute a little to this conversation. Kirigiri gave a wry smile and scratched his head. Despite the nervous atmosphere that filled the room, he seemed completely calm. Matsuda, having lost his momentum, closed his eyes slowly, let out a heavy sigh, and sat back down. As soon as he was done, Kirigiri continued in a quiet tone. Okay, 3, 2, 1, switch. Okay. Matsuda, we are merely asking for a favor. Not a favor just for us. You can consider it a favor to every student and teacher of Hope's Peak Academy. Would you please at least consider listening to what we have to say? Matsuda stayed quiet and looked at Kirigiri, unable to judge what the man's true intentions were. Kirigiri, on his part, tried his best to take back control of the situation. Kirigiri, like I said, and I'm not going to get into the specifics and talk about spoilers, but there's a reason that I refer to him as who he is, because I feel like he has a lot of, like, in a lot of ways he understands, and I think to some degree can agree with some of Seal's ideas, but it's not for nearly as ridiculous and just nonsensical as their ideological reasons are for believing in hope. I think he has a more kind of earnest and true kind of interpretation of what hope is. But in the end, he still does believe in a rather similar idea and is still willing to do really bad things, if that's what needs to be done to protect it and protect these kids. So I think, like, Kirigiri is meant to be, like, way less bad than the steering committee, but you're still also, you still are also supposed to see, like, yeah, he's still doing bad things, but he's just comparatively, he's a lot more relatable and a lot more, like, he's a human being, whereas it feels like the others have just completely lost the plot of what it even means to be a person. Anyways, Kirigiri, on his part, tried his best to take back control of the situation. I won't ask you to do anything other than listen. If you decide to refuse, we will accept your decision. With the preliminaries done, he moved straight to the topic on hand. I'm sure I don't have to explain to you about the incident, but we should probably still begin it there anyway. Kirigiri cleared his throat, which I'm not going to do, folded both his hands in front of himself, and continued. It's been a month, and we still can't believe what had happened. Such an appalling incident taking place inside Hope's Peak Academy. It feels like we're living a nightmare. But it really did happen, yelled one of the men. 13 kids! 13 victims, and the details of what happened are still unclear. How could this have happened at our school? When the screaming voices stopped, Matsuda spoke up. There was something he wanted to confirm. So, you never informed the police? Of course we didn't! What do you think would happen if we did? What would it solve? This is not a problem that can be taken care of by arresting a culprit. But what about the victims' families? We're taking care of that. Yet another old man yelled without skipping a beat. You don't need to be worried with such things. Judging by the way he spoke, the Academy had already taken measures behind the scenes for dealing with it all. They must have asked for some favors from the school's alumni. Many of them rose to high positions on the strength of the Hope's Peak brand. And if that brand were to fall from grace, they too would lose it all. You're right. I shouldn't have to worry about that. So, what is it you want me to do? This other student you were talking about. They must have something to do with the incident as well, right? We need you to help us extract information from the student that will help clarify the truth behind the incident, answered Kirigiri. You say clarify the truth, but isn't that a contradiction? Didn't you decide to cover up the whole incident? The cover-up? Matsuda was the only student the faculty trusted with that secret. In exchange for his cooperation, he was awarded a large research grant and new equipment for his lab. In that sense, he really was just another scientist. That wasn't the only reason he agreed to cooperate. No one but Matsuda himself knew the other reason. Okay, that's horrifying. That's terrifying. Yes, I suppose it does sound like a contradiction, doesn't it? Answered Kirigiri after a short hesitation. However, this is a necessity. We strongly believe that concealing this incident is for the best, but there is too much we still don't know. We can't hide something we don't completely understand. That's why we must learn the entire story regarding what happened. In order to protect Hope's Peak Academy, this cover-up has to be perfect. Kirigiri said it all without the slightest sign of doubt. He would do anything to protect Hope's Peak Academy. Matsuda could empathize with the idea. You have to sacrifice something to protect something, Matsuda thought. I can understand that much, at least. It's exactly what I'm doing. So then, who is this student you want me to interrogate? Kirigiri licked his dry lips and gave Matsuda a curious answer. We didn't disclose this to you before, but in addition to the person you knew of who discovered the crime scene, there were 2 survivors. 2 survivors? Sure enough, that was the first time Matsuda had heard about them. Interesting. They are indispensable for discovering the truth about the incident, of course. Had all been well, we would have questioned them immediately after the incident to hear their story. But due to certain circumstances, we were unable to do so. Circumstances? One of the students never recovered consciousness and has been in a coma since the incident. The other, thankfully, came out unhurt, but went missing soon after. We do not know where that student is right now. So, one of them is Izuru, right? Izuru is probably the one that went missing. But could also be the coma guy. Like, we don't know whether... We know no details about this incident, outside of the fact that we know who did it, of course. But... Because my initial thought was one of these students is Junko, and that maybe she was there, and that was an interesting little... That there was maybe a moment between Junko and Izuru, but, she'd more likely... I doubt she'd go comatose. And I'm assuming the one that went missing was Izuru, but who knows? Interesting. You want me to see if I can learn anything from the comatose student, don't you? Kirigiri nodded. Exactly. Finding the truth in order to hide it. It was certainly a twisted thing to do, but it was also rather convenient for Matsuda. This might be my chance to protect her. Finding the truth in order to hide it, it was certainly a twisted thing to do, but it was also rather convenient for Matsuda. This might be my chance to protect her. I mean... So, a little bit of theory here. I am assuming Ryoko was first on the scene, because that's separate from the two survivors. I also am thinking that Matsuda saw something in very Ace Attorney fashion. He saw something sus as fuck that made him very strongly assume that Ryoko did it. And because he saw that, he's kind of low-key freaking out. And so he's trying to maneuver this in a way where he could protect her. That's kind of where I'm going. I think that's the motivation here for Matsuda. We'll have to see, though. And possibly, if we want to get deeper into my theory, Junko maybe could have been the one that made Ryoko look guilty in order to manipulate Matsuda, because we know Junko likes to play some big brain games. And again, if there's any validity to the fact that one or both of these main characters in Danganronpa 0, I think very well could be Despairs. So, throw that out there too. I understand, he said. He had no other choice. I'll see what I can do. Do you think it can be managed? One of the old men leaned forward suddenly in an attempt to regain authority. It's still too early to tell. It depends on the student's exact condition. I'll try my best in any case. Matsuda answered bluntly and returned to face Kirigiri. But what about the missing student? You don't just plan to let them roam freely, do you? After a short silence, Kirigiri leaned in and looked straight into Matsuda's eyes. Is something worrying you? His gaze was sharp, and Matsuda felt as if it could read his innermost thoughts. Wanting to escape it, he retracted quickly. No, I was just curious. His voice shook with anxiety, and he continued in an effort to hide it. I mean, a missing student is incredibly suspicious, isn't it? Don't you think they could be the culprit who killed 13 students and left one in a coma? The old men immediately started rustling, their whispers reverberating through the meeting room. Kirigiri alone kept his cool. It's just as you say, the way things look. That student is extremely suspicious. In that case what? Kirigiri interrupted forcefully. It just justifies covering up this incident even more. If we don't, it's going to be the end of this school. The end of this school. Matsuda was intrigued by Kirigiri's choice of words. Does that mean that the student who has gone missing is someone special? That pretty much confirms that it is Izuru that's missing. A certain name suddenly found itself floating in the back of Matsuda's mind. He had heard the name only in rumors, and in stories he always presumed to be urban legends. But if that person really did exist, they may very well be involved in this incident. If that's the case, it all makes sense. Makes perfect sense that they would call such an incident the tragedy of Hope's Peak Academy. It makes sense, but it's also terrible. A single drop of sweat fell down from Matsuda's temple as he whispered those words deep inside his heart. Okay, fun times. So that was really interesting. I really like chapter 4. So we got Matsuda having a meeting with Kirigiri and the fucking steering committee. And yeah, that was really interesting. I really liked that chapter. That was getting the perspective of Yasuke Matsuda, and clearly he's being kind of used by the academy here to try and kind of figure out what the fuck happened with the student council massacre. And it gives us a little bit of introspection and perspective on Matsuda, because so far we had only seen Matsuda from the perspective of Ryoko, and now we're getting kind of more details about what this dude's all about. And that's cool. That's cool. I really like that. We also got a little more of Jin, and really kind of showing why he's the headmaster of Hope's Peak. Like, you know, he's a calming force, he's smart, but he has a forceful side. Really kind of just a all-around complete package. I'm really liking what we're getting from Jin, and it's kind of a shame that outside of Danganronpa 0, this might be the extent of characterization we actually get of Jin Kirigiri, which is really unfortunate because he's really cool, and I like how he's been portrayed in this story so far, so I'm digging Jin quite a bit. And yeah, fun stuff. I like that chapter. Of course, the steering committee is every bit as bad as I thought. Very, very much how I pegged them initially, so that's fun. But anyways, let's move on to chapter 5 of Danganronpa 0. I jumped to my feet at the sudden pain of my skin being pulled violently. I saw a boy standing at my bedside with a jumble of cords attached to suction cups in his hands. My heart started pounding. Matsuda, you're Matsuda, right? Not wasting a second, I leapt straight into him, but just like a matador, he nimbly stepped aside. My head crashed into the wall as if I were the coyote and had just been tricked by the roadrunner. I could see stars spinning around my head. Would be very funny animated for sure. Why are you avoiding me? Because you have a swollen face. You can't go calling a girl's face swollen. I turned on shaky feet and peered into a mirror atop the nearby desk. My face was covered with violet blue spots the size of small coins. Swollen, sure enough. But that's because you pulled those suction cups off my face so violently, Matsuda. I was in a hurry. Oh, I wouldn't mind if you went right here. I'm not in a hurry because I have to use the bathroom. Ew, what the fuck? Ryoko, you really are a fucking yandere. I wouldn't mind if you took a piss in my mouth, daddy. Like, what the fuck are you on about? The worst part is, the first image that came into my head was literally him just taking a shit in the corner. Right in front of her. But Of course, how silly of me. Matsuda never has to use the bathroom at all. What do you even think I am, ugly? You're the most sublime being in human history, of course. Don't include me in your ridiculous delusions. Matsuda breathed a heavy sigh as if giving up. I've had enough. If I keep talking to you, I'll go weird in the head too. He started tidying up the trolley. Anyway, I have more business to attend to today. Go home. Quickly now. But why? Naturally, I strongly objected to the request. I don't wanna. I'd be lonely again. Honestly, you're hopeless. Matsuda narrowed his eyes and slowly stepped up to me, grasping both of my shoulders tenderly. Close your eyes. Just do it. Close them. As Matsuda's face drew close to me, I could feel my heart pounding against my ribcage. And so I did as I was told and closed them. My entire body became hot. I felt as if I was about to melt. The blood vessels behind my ears pulsed violently. The situation could only mean one thing, right? It's a terrible cliche, but what else could it be? It is, isn't it? It is. It's gonna be something so dumb. It's obvious. He's not about to fucking shove his tongue down your mouth, though, like you want. Then, as the anticipation made my heart thump louder than ever before, I felt Matsuda moving behind me. Damn! What the fuck? I leaned back gently, and before I could even wonder what was going on, he pushed me forward and out of into the corridor. Holy shit! Bro, for a second, what the fuck? Can we talk about how Ryoko for a second thought she was about to get fucked? Bro, what the fuck? What is this line? Actually, what is this line? Then, as the anticipation made my heart thump louder than ever, I felt Matsuda moving behind me. I leaned back gently. Like, what the fuck is that? No, come on. There we go. Yeah, this girl's great. Like, they're being cutesy and, like, subtle enough with it, but low-key, she's basically, like, low-key, like, this girl's fucking psychotic when it comes to Matsuda. Like, low-key, she's like, you can piss in my mouth. Oh, you can take me anytime. Like, literally just in this chapter, she said both of those things, but she said them in a way that, like, most people reading this wouldn't pick up on, but I'm a psychopath, so I pick up on it. And no, that is not me making stuff up. Don't even try. From the excessive force of Matsuda's shove, I collapsed on my ass in the middle of the hallway with my skirt splayed around me. It was a small mercy that I was wearing clean underwear at least. What? Okay, girls, guys too, but like, I feel like to some degree guys have a reputation for this. I've never done this in my fucking life, so I can't relate, but girls, are any of you out there wearing like fucking 3-day-old underwear that you like never washed? Like, is that a thing you girls are doing? Because please tell me Ryoko's just a fucking freak, because she is. But yeah. I mean, unless it's like I mean, I don't get me wrong, I guess it is a fetish. I was gonna say, like, the only exception would be, like, if you're dating someone and they're into that. Then it'd be like, okay, whatever. But, like, otherwise, shit's weird. I mean, the shit's still weird, but that's different. Anyways. The next treatment is in 3 days. Be a good girl and stay in your room. Don't go out on needless walks. Matsuda said, and before I could even get up, he shut the door loudly behind him. Ow, he tricked me. My shoulders drooped, but since there was nothing I could do, I simply left the Neuroscience Institute crestfallen. Oh, I love that word, crestfallen. That's such a great word. I love that word. As I exited the biology building, the first thing I did was check my notebook. I had to go back to the dorms, but since I had forgotten where they were, I flipped through the pages of Ryoko Otonashi's memory notebook as I walked. Eventually, I found the school map that I seemed to have drawn all by myself. This seemed like as good a time as any to do a full-scale review of my notes and go over the campus of Hope Speak Academy. Well then, According to my map, Hope's Peak Academy's campus is shaped like a huge diamond. It's divided into 4 regions known as districts: east, west, north, and south, each about the size of a regular full-scale high school. So it's basically like the size of about 4 Japanese high schools. The East District, which I was walking through now, was the heart of the academy, where the buildings and faculties used by the main school are located. Many of its buildings were still under construction, but there were also several magnificent, envy-inducing research buildings for various fields, much like the biology building that Matsuda's lab was in. In addition, it seems this district is also home to the faculty building, which students are forbidden to enter. So the East, to clarify, the East District is basically the part of Hope's Peak Academy that we're familiar with. From Danganronpa 1, I mean. Then there's the West District. It seems the buildings and faculties for the reserve course are located there, but I don't think I've ever visited it. Unfortunately, there isn't much written in my notebook about it. The South District is where Hope's Peak Academy's student dormitories are. In addition, it seems there's a convenience store, a bookstore, and various other shops where necessary supplies can be bought. By the way, it seems only students belonging to the main school are allowed to live in the dorms, and it's apparently a special perk that doesn't even cost money. Then there's the North District, which is apparently currently vacant. The only thing left there is the old school building, which was still in use until just recently. For the time being, it seems, it's been left neglected and without maintenance, so naturally entrance is forbidden. In short, there isn't much to say about that district at all. Finally, at the very center of the campus, surrounded by the 4 districts, is the Central Plaza. It's almost structured like, kind of like theme parks. Like in America, the way that like a lot of theme parks are structured, and you get the map, and there's kind of like sections, and they're all kind of, usually jointed together by a central area. That's kind of generally how like theme parks are structured in America, like the big ones. So like, I haven't been to a theme park in years, but like, I've been to Disneyland, I've been to Legoland, I've been to California Adventure, I've been to Universal Studios, I've been to, what's it called, Knott's Berry Farms, I've been to a couple of Six Flags in California. I've been to like all the theme parks in California. I've been to, Great America? I think, yeah, Great America. There's a lot of theme parks in California, especially most of them in the LA area, but there's a few in the Bay Area up north as well. The point is, I've been to a lot of theme parks, and a lot of them are kind of structured like that. Not necessarily all of them, but as a general, like, template for a theme park, you have, like, about that many areas pretty much separate, and then, like, a kind of centralized location. Anyways, Central Plaza, yeah. A large park-like space overgrown with trees. It's often used as a relaxation area for the students, but it appears entry is forbidden between 10 at night and 7 in the morning. Was that the... No, I think it was 8 a.m. when, Rise and Shine. Like, I was trying to think, like, what was considered morning. Because 10 p.m. I feel like was curfew in Danganronpa games. But I think 8 a.m. was... I think it was 8 to 10 was... 8 a.m. to 10 p.m. was like when they were allowed to do stuff. I could be wrong. Anyways, well, I don't plan on walking around in the middle of the night, so it seems it has nothing to do with me. That's foreshadowing. She's definitely going to be walking around in the middle of the night soon. And so, despite my messy handwriting, I was able to make sense of the map and return to the dorm safely. Then, ignoring the greetings of the students who passed me by in the halls, I went straight to my room. Upon entering, I was met with sticky notes reading, "This is my room," stuck all around. Yep, this is the right place, there's no question about it. After confirming this important fact, I stood near the doorway for a while, staring into space. But no matter how much I tried, I couldn't think of anything I wanted to do, and so eventually I simply collapsed onto my bed. Unfortunately, it seemed I had already taken a midday nap somewhere because I was unable to fall asleep. Reluctantly, I decided to kill some time. For me, killing time meant exactly one thing. I took out Ryoko Otonashi's memory notebook and, still lying on the bed, started flipping through its pages. Everything that's written down in that notebook is the undeniable truth, but I can't remember any of it. In other words, it feels like I'm reading a non-fiction book about myself. The excitement of experiencing my own past vicariously is an amazing form of entertainment that only someone as forgetful as myself can enjoy. It's interesting because this is such a terrifying character because she trusts that notebook unequivocally. So if someone was to alter that notebook, the things you could do to this girl, Jesus Christ, it is actually horrifying. And very fitting for this universe, because Danganronpa is pretty horrifying in general. I read about the conversations I had with Matsuda, and the things he would say to me. Most of the notebook was about Matsuda. That's exactly what made it so much fun. Then, as I continued flipping through the notebook, my eyes stopped on one single page. The page was filled with a large sketch of a boy's face. My heartbeat increased, if only slightly. This must be a portrait of Matsuda, I thought, but since my heart isn't beating that fast, it must not be a very good likeness. Maybe I should try to make some amendments? I think the nose is all wrong? No, maybe it's the eyes? I couldn't really remember what Matsuda's face looked like, but I used my heartbeat as a measure and carefully took to changing the portrait. This is probably how bomb disposal units feel when they're searching for landmines. No, I guess it's a little different. After messing with the portrait for a little bit, I felt my heart beating a little bit faster than it did before. I did it. I couldn't wipe the smile off my face. If I just keep fiddling with the sketch little by little, I'm sure will eventually look just like the real Matsuda. I'm sure I've been working on this sketch for a while, but of course I don't remember it. The careful editing of the portrait required every bit of my conversation, so I'm sure that each time I tried I couldn't keep it up very long. Tired, I placed the notebook next to my pillow and turned to lay on my back. Then I started to whisper, I want to meet Matsuda. I want to meet Matsuda. I want to meet Matsuda. It was the only thing I could do. Right now, the only thing I could do is whisper deep inside my heart how much I want to meet Matsuda. There is nothing else I can think about. Nothing else I could do. Nothing else I should do. I can't remember anything else after all. Not even my family or my other classmates. For me, the people living in the outside world and what they do feels just like watching a boring stage play from the sidelines. Since I can't remember anything that happens, I don't even feel I live in the same world they do. Noisy classrooms, sweat-drenched PE lessons, festive lunchtimes, stopping to grab a bite after club activities, sitting on the ground chatting with friends, embarrassing conversations with the family. Can't even feel envy or regret that I'm missing out on these things. They simply have nothing to do with me, and that's it. But the only existence keeping me from being entirely cut off from the world is Matsuda. And that's why I can't think of anything else but him. Alright. Let's see. I don't stop for a second to think about anything else. I want to meet Matsuda. I want to meet Matsuda. I want to meet... Look! There was a strange sound, and as I came back to my senses, I raised myself from the bed and found a letter shoved under the room's door. It's from Matsuda! It was the logical conclusion to make, and so I jumped to grab the envelope, hurriedly reading the letter inside. Dear Miss Ultimate Pitiful Forgetful Girl, I've taken all the precious past memories you've so meticulously chronicled. There are a lot of them, and they're filled to the brim with memories of Yasuke Matsuda. That's the entire weight of your past right there, isn't it? Isn't it? Am I right? It so is. I wonder if this is Junko. I feel like Dear Miss Ultimate Pitiful Forgetful Girl sounds pretty Junko, like she would say that. It's hard to know, though. Should I read this as Junko? Do I think this is Junko? It's probably Junko. Oh, God. I don't even know what to fucking do for Junko. I could do the... like, I could do the Junko Kuma laugh, but... as far as an actual voice, because I feel like if I do Junko, it's gonna be 12 times 2 Valley Girl, because she looks Valley Girl. Dear, like, I want to go, like, Dear Miss Ultimate, Pitiful, Forgetful Girl, but that's not Junko. Like, that's not her voice at all. So I don't actually know what to do for her. Let me see if I could formulate a voice for Junko. God, I almost... because it's like, her voice isn't that weird. It's like she has a fairly, relatively normal girl's voice, and then she branches out into like 12 different, like, personalities, right? So, but there's obviously, I think, like, even just reading this, there's a little bit of, like, that spite and, that, like, just, you know, like, Junko-isms. I don't even know how to put it. Dear Miss... oh, God. No. Oh, man. I'm so out of practice with the voices. I feel like they sound so bad when I, like... everything just sounds the same. Which I can't do voices, so that's always the case. But, like, worse than it was when I did the first 2 games. I feel like I didn't do half bad in the second game. Dear Miss Ultimate Pitiful Forgetful Girl, I've taken all the precious past memories you've so meticulously chronicled. There are a lot of them, and they're filled to the brim with memories of Yasuke Matsuda. That's the entire weight of your past right there, isn't it? Isn't it? Am I right? It so is. By the way, if you think I'm lying, just look under your bed. That's where you were keeping all your memories. But there isn't even a single one left. That's because I took them all. Well then, let's get to the main issue. If you want your memories back, come to the fountain in the Central Plaza tonight at 1 a.m. Come alone, of course. But it's not like you even have anyone to call, isn't it? That's all. Hope to see you tonight. Interesting choice of words. And also, I literally made the joke about how she foreshadowed that she was going to go to the Central Plaza at night or whatever. And literally, I didn't expect it to be that soon. My body froze as I finished reading the letter. It froze, and yet it also quivered like a plate of jelly. That metaphor might not be very good, but that's just how baffled I was. Blackmail? What's going on? I don't understand. But this wasn't something I could figure out just by asking questions. First, I had to check under the bed, like the letter said. I hastily did so, only to find there was nothing there. To tell you the truth, I don't even remember even storing old notebooks under there, but if I really did, and all of my past memories of Matsuda were stolen, it's terrible. It meant all I had left was the notebook I currently held in my hand. That's all I have left? Over 15 years on this notebook, and on this earth, and just one measly notebook is all I have to show for it? Yeah, it's interesting because... This is really interesting, actually, because she has shown no interest in her past and in her memories. But the notebook, Ryoko Tanashi's memory notebook, is a tangible form of her memories. So the idea that she had other notebooks and lost them, to her, affects her more than her actual memories being gone. That's really interesting. And that's also really clever, because obviously whoever did this is playing off of it, which does make me feel more confident that it's Junko, because that's clever. And obviously Junko's quite clever. Suddenly, a strange feeling descended upon me. Was this what they call a feeling of loss? A full decade of memories that I was now unable to reach. I'm sure people who learn to live with a small wound still have to endure a certain amount of pain. But that wasn't the case for me. I had no idea how to deal with this new pain I currently felt. For the time being, I was simply angry. Whose idea of a prank is this? My voice was strained and shaky as I grasped the letter in my fists, crumpling it. What? Why? Maybe I should just run away? But what if this is the work of some sleazeball scheming to get between me and Matsuda's love? Must be because he's so handsome. Some other girl must have seen us together. For girls like that, the growing love between us must be an eyesore. So one of them must have taken things in her own hands. That must be it. She took my memories hostage with the intent to stop me. What a coward! God, she is such a yandere. Everything goes back to Matsuda. It's so crazy. My anger reached its boiling point and was about to erupt like Mount Etna, but it didn't. It seemed that I'd even forgotten how to be properly angry. But that was just natural. Someone as uninvolved with the world as I am is a stranger to feelings of anger, and so I had no idea how to channel it. I guess anger that originates in the imagination alone has its limits. No, that is just not true. In any case, since I couldn't let my anger out, my feelings rapidly cooled down. I guess I don't really have any choice but to go. If the person who made this, obviously you're missing an eye there. I guess if the person who made this ever reads this, just saying. Having completely calmed down, I laid down on the bed and waited for 1 a.m., the appointed time. I read the letter over and over so I wouldn't forget what I was waiting for, and then, as the time approached. But this won't turn into a fight, right? It's going to be okay, isn't it? God damn it! Ryoko! Why did you say that? Now we're gonna have a fight. What the fuck? Harboring these depressing thoughts, I left my room. It was the Central Plaza, right? I walked down the pavement with heavy steps, checking the map in Ryoko Otonashi's memory notebook. This was the world at night, a world where everyone was asleep. In the middle of it all, I was the only person walking about. There were no signs of a single other human being anywhere. It was a definite atmosphere of loneliness, but I didn't want to think about it any more than that. To be honest, the thought of just going back to my room crossed my mind several times, but I had a feeling that if I did, I would never see those stolen memories again, and so my feet reluctantly pushed me forward. After walking for a short while, an iron fence came into view, set up to completely block the pathway I walked along. According to my notebook, entry to the Central Plaza was forbidden between 10 p.m. and 7 a.m., so that's probably why this fence was here. In other words, if I couldn't overcome this fence, I wouldn't be able to reach my destination. This time around, I thought more seriously about going back, but at the last moment made a firm resolution and started climbing the fence. Somehow, I made my way over and managed to land on the lawn on the other side. I started walking around the Central Plaza, looking for the fountain I was directed to go to. The darkness deepened. Probably because the area was so thick with trees. The same trees that must have been a brilliant, sparkling green in the light of the sun now painted the plaza pitch black, blocking out the sight of any stars above. I walked around in the darkness for a while until my field of vision suddenly grew wider. In front of me was a small square. In its center stood a couple of street lamps, gently illuminating their surroundings. Among them was the fountain I was looking for, with the water producing a gentle, splashing sound. As soon as my consciousness understood that I'd reached my destination, my nervousness increased. I stepped slowly toward the fountain with excessive caution, but after just a few steps, I stopped in my tracks. From there, I could see someone standing on the other side of the fountain. With the shadows of the trees, I could only see the upper half of their body, but regardless, it was pretty clear I was looking at a man's back. Okay. I kind of was assuming Junko, but it looks like we got a dude. Interesting. Excuse me? I spoke with a loud, full voice, but there was no answer. I guess I should go just a little bit closer. The lawn gave gently beneath my feet. Despite my attempt, the man didn't make any sign he had heard me whatsoever. I slowly continued forward and raised my voice again. Excuse me, was it you who called me here? Oh my god, is this about to be a fucking dead body? Once again, there was no answer. Bro, if this is fucking... Oh my god, I just thought about if this is fucking Matsuda's dead body, I would fucking lose my mind. And so would... Fuck, Jesus Christ, forget me. Ryoko would fucking freak. But given the fact that there's 2 volumes, and you guys know the thumbnail, you know, besides the little number at the bottom for the episode count, the bottom left, what I did was I took the 2 volumes of Danganronpa 0 and, like, fused them together to make a thumbnail. And the first volume has Ryoko on the cover, and the second volume has Matsuda on the cover. So I'd imagine that if he dies, he won't die at least until sometime in the second half of the story. If at all. Anyways, my body grew heavy, and a growing sense of dread weighed down on both of my shoulders. In no time, my tightly fisted hands were covered in sweat. Nevertheless, the lure of mystery pushed me forward, and the contours of the faint figure in front of me gradually became clearer. The man was wearing a suit. His hair was a light gray, and his neck was covered with countless deep wrinkles. Oh, is this a steering committee guy? Because in the last chapter, I think, yeah, it was the last chapter, I think we're on 5. They did emphasize that they all wore suits, and obviously they're implying this is an older man. Suddenly, a gust of wind came blowing by, and he swayed to and fro, back and forth. Bro, did someone hang him? The man's figure continued swaying feebly in the wind. I felt cold shivers all over my body, as though someone touched the back of my neck with an icy hand. I faintly heard my inner voice yelling at me to stop, but my feet moved of their own accord as I approached the man and looked at his face. His eyes met mine, his wide, bloodshot red eyes bulging out of their sockets met mine. His face was pale, and the dark blood vessels beneath made an eerie pattern. A tongue that looked like a rotting sea slug lolled out of his mouth, nearly reaching his neck. And he was not standing on the ground. He was hanging by a rope around his neck. A rope that slowly swayed him in the wind, to and fro, back and forth. That's pretty metal. Sounds about right for Danganronpa, though. We've never seen a... Well, no, that's not true. I literally was about to say a literal lie. I was gonna say we've never seen hanging, and then my mind... I was starting to run through the games, and when I thought... And then I found the one. I was like, yeah. We have definitely seen it, and it was with a goated character, too, which makes it worse. Just standing there, my entire body went cold. I know I should be writing such a thing in my notebook, but this isn't the time. I should run away. This has nothing to do with me. Drip, drip. Instead, my eyes dropped to the source of a strange sound. Small drops fell from the man's toes, gathering in a puddle beneath him. Blood, I would assume. For some reason, in the middle of the puddle was a notebook. The moment I saw it, I felt an intense current run throughout my body and into my brain. 4 words were written on the cover. The letters were smudged but still clear enough to read. Ryoko Otonashi's memory notebook. Ooh, that's good. Oh, that's good. That's really good. Ooh. Ooh, I like that. I like that. I like that a lot. So, okay. Okay, we have a lot of theory time, because this could be a couple people that could be responsible for this murder. I could think of 3 that make sense. They all make actually a fair bit of sense. So, option 1 is Izuru. I think this is the least likely option. It's possible, but there was never any mention of Izuru killing more people outside of the student council stuff in, when we mentioned the tragedy of Hope Speak Academy. It's possible he did, for sure. The most likely culprit is Junko. Okay, actually there's 4 possibilities. The most likely possibility is Junko. And this was what she wanted to show Ryoko, the notebook, and freak her the hell the fuck out. The third possibility is Ryoko. Do I need to say any more? Like, that's fucking nuts. But it's possible. And the fourth possibility is Matsuda. Especially given how we established the previous chapter, Matsuda's dealings with the suits and ties, the steering committee. I wouldn't completely count that out either, because I do think there's a good chance that both Ryoko and Matsuda are being set up to be despairs for weirdly different but kind of similar reasons. But the most likely option is just Junko killed this dude. That's top of the list, but there's a lot of other possibilities, actually, which is fun. Kind of like an actual Danganronpa case. Until they reveal it in, like, fucking 5 seconds, probably. Anyways, that was Chapter 5. That was fun. Again, we're back in the perspective of Ryoko. I am wondering if we're going to keep switching perspectives between Matsuda and Ryoko, or if we're going to mostly stick in Ryoko's perspective, because she feels like the main character, at least for Volume 1. Obviously, she's the cover of Volume 1, and Matsuda's the cover of Volume 2, so I wouldn't necessarily be surprised if she's the main character of Volume 1, he's the main character of Volume 2. That's possible as well, but, yeah. Really good stuff. I'm really enjoying this so far. We're 2 chapters in so far today, and I don't know exactly. No, Jesus, that might come across when I talk. You're gonna hear that in the mic. That's someone running a lawnmower or whatever, and that's pretty loud. Okay, now it's kind of more in the distance for the moment. Hopefully, it stays that way. Now it sounds like it completely stopped. Okay. Interesting. But if you hear something in the background when I'm talking, I apologize, but nothing I could do about that. Anyways, yeah, I don't know how far along we are, but we're gonna keep reading for a while. I don't know how far we're gonna go, but we're gonna keep reading for a while. Obviously, we're at least doing chapter 6, but probably more than that, honestly. Hopefully we get through more than that. Before I knew it, I found myself running, tears and snot running down my face, scrawling something in my notebook, but then I quickly forgot why I was even running. I slowed my pace and looked down at the unfinished memory in the notebook. As I did, the just forgotten memory came back to me in an instant. Yeah! Screaming, I continued fervently dashing away from the central plaza. I climbed over the iron fence like it was nothing and ran along the pavement until I finally saw the school dormitory in front of me. I flew into the dorms at top speed and headed straight for Matsuda's room. At a time like this, the only person I can remember, the only person I can rely on is Matsuda. As I ran through the corridors, flipping through my notebook in search of Matsuda's room, I recalled another memory that was written down in it. Unless you have a good reason, you're not allowed to visit Matsuda's room at all. But if this wasn't a good reason, then I don't know what is. It was an unprecedented state of emergency, and so I ignored the warning. After flipping through the notebook some more, I finally remembered where Matsuda's room is and managed to reach it before I forgot again. Bang, 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 bang. As soon as I reached the door, I knocked on it with all my strength and screamed, "Matsuda, it's an emergency, an emergency!" But no matter how long I waited, the door didn't show any sign it was going to open. Matsuda, come on, Matsuda! I continued my violent, desperate knocking, beginning to lose hope that he would appear. I pounded and yelled, and after a while, a door finally opened. Honestly, who is it? But the door that opened was the room next to Matsuda's. Wait, huh? It was strange. There was no one there. The door was open, and I even heard a person's voice, but no one was there. Okay, hey, what's going on? You're being very noisy. Someone's voice echoed it quietly in the hall, and even more surprising, it was a kid's voice. I looked around once more, but there was still no one there. Hey, big sis, where are you looking? I'm right here. Okay, maybe I should do more childish based on how she described it. Where are you? I turned to face the empty hallway and yelled, Show yourself! Oh, there's the lawnmower or whatever again. Once again, I could only hear a voice. I'm not hiding anywhere, I'm right here in front of you. You just haven't noticed me yet. In front of me? I took a deep breath and waited for my pounding heart to calm down. Then I properly concentrated on the environment. That's when I saw him. Oh, did you finally notice me? In front of my eyes stood a small, young boy that looked almost like a cartoon Cupid. Don't feel bad. I was born with a weak sense of presence. No one notices me at first. I'm used to it by now, so don't let it bother you. Interesting. So I was thinking the same thing, and I was thinking of a character from a story, from another series, that has like a power like this. And given that this is Hope's Peak Academy, and there's weird like pseudo powers that aren't quite powers, because there isn't nothing that quite dips into like the ridiculousness, but something like this I could definitely see fitting in the Danganronpa universe. Interesting. The boy had the clean voice of someone yet to reach puberty. His face was surprisingly featureless. The kind of face that you draw if you were told to doodle a child without using a reference. His complete lack of distinguishing features was, in a way, its own distinguishing feature. Interesting. I'm almost wondering if there's a chance this is... I don't think this quite works out, so it probably isn't, but I'm almost wondering if this is imposter. But I don't think I want to do that voice for someone that probably isn't imposter, because that is like the most ridiculous voice ever. His complete lack... Yeah. So, what's wrong? What's wrong about what? Hey. When you're assaulting someone's door in the middle of the night and screaming bloody murder, you can't go asking about what. At this time of night, even insomniacs would be asleep. He held a paper bag crammed with sweet pastries in his hand, fit for the unending appetite of someone still in his growth period. A logo reading Hansel and Gretel was printed on it, presumably the bakery's name. He took a pastry out of the bag, crammed it in his mouth, and said, "Fawawa." Can you repeat that? The boy swallowed the pastry he'd been chewing. I said, well, what's wrong? How about you tell me about it? I may be able to help. As he urged me to share any details, the boy looked me over as if appraising me. His eyes especially lingered on my chest and legs. Before that, I have one question of my own. What's a kid doing here? Are you visiting your brother or sister here, or... I'm Yudo Kamishiro from Hope's Peak Academy's 77th class. Pleased to meet you. Okay, Yudo Kamishiro is a... God damn it, I don't know why I keep saying Shiru. Yudo Kamishiro is a new character, at least a new name. Could still be imposter, but I'm assuming it's not. Although the fact that he's stuffing himself with food does kind of line up, actually. Huh? I may not look like one, but I'm a high school student. What? Don't worry, I already have hair growing in all the right places. Oh my. Don't act so surprised. Anyway, I've introduced myself, so can you at least tell me your name? Sure, I held my notebook up to the boy's face, the cover facing towards him. Huh. Well. Opined the boy from the other side of the notebook. That's one way to introduce yourself. Ryoko Tanashi. Not a bad name, if I may say so myself. My patience practically leveled up from waiting for you to introduce yourself, though. He gave an innocent laugh. Between that and his appearance, I couldn't see anything but an elementary school student. Oh, don't worry, he's interested in you in ways that, generally speaking, elementary school students probably aren't. Think? Anyways, well then, suddenly his expression matured. What kind of trouble have you gotten yourself involved in? His eyes glittered with curiosity. No, rather, they glared with curiosity. Not just curiosity alone. They radiated something much more greedy, more calculating, more fanatical. You seem to be in such a panic. I can only assume you saw something pretty terrible. Staring at me with an aura that felt at odds with his useful opinion, he thrust his hand into the paper bag once again and chose another pastry. Oh, sweet! Ebisu pumpkin melon bread. The fuck? His face spread into a wide, innocent grin once more as he happily stuffed the pastry into his mouth. So what is it? What kind of trouble? I wouldn't call it trouble exactly. It's just that I have something I need to discuss with Matsuda, who's in this room over here. I didn't quite get that. Kamishiro. God damn it, why do I keep saying Shiru? Kamishiro. Like, I literally have had multiple characters in reaction series named Shiro, but for some reason you put Kami in front of it, and I want to say Shiru. Kamishiro gulped the pastry down. Matsuda is out. Out? Yep, out. What? My sudden cry reverberated through the dorm's empty corridor. No way, he can't be, he can't. He sure as hell picked a great time to disappear. You can yell all you'd like, it's not gonna make him suddenly be home. Despite my emotional panic, Kamishiro just calmly continued nibbling on a pastry. His neuroticism is pretty well known among the 77th class. There's no way he wouldn't notice someone knocking that hard on his door. I'm in the next room over and even I noticed and came out to see what was going on. But if he's not here, then where is he? Maybe he's still in the lab? He pulls all-nighters over there pretty often. Got it, his lab. I turned around and started to run. Hey, wait! But Kamishiro... Oh my god. Kamishiro, what the fuck? Kamishiro stopped me. Don't tell me you plan to go there now. Did you forget at this time of night the East District's blocked with an iron fence and security sensors? I don't think you can get in. I can't. In other words, I can't get Matsuda to save me? You've got to be kidding me. I was at my wit's end. Oh no, what am I gonna do? This is the biggest crisis I've ever had. Why don't you let me help you then? Kamishiro faced me, his expression calm. I can't leave a troubled woman with a cute face such as yours all alone. So what's the situation? Tell me everything. The situation? Well, it's... Huh? I mean, it's, what was it again? It seems that while I was at my wit's end, I'd forgotten what I was at my wit's end for. It's really funny. Wait just a moment. I hurriedly checked my notebook. You really don't have to hide anything. If it wasn't actually that serious, then you shouldn't be pounding on that door like you did. You're acting like when they find a dead body in Kindaichi case files. Sure, that's a reference to something. Dead body? Right as Kamishiro said those words, I found the same phrase in my notebook. In a second, my spirit was crushed and suffocated, and I stopped breathing. Hey, what's wrong? You look like you saw a ghost, big sis. I was still in shock from my resurrected memory of finding a dead body and finding a body and couldn't breathe. In order to escape from being suffocated, I whispered one sentence to myself. This has nothing to do with me. I repeated it again and again. Nothing to do with me, nothing to do with me, nothing to do with me. For me, the words were like a magical enchantment. Each time I whispered them, the world slowed down a little. Truly magical words. That's right. Nothing to do with me, nothing to do with me. After repeating the words a few more times, I finally managed to calm myself down. As my breath steadied, I began to close my notebook with my eyes carelessly read over the next written memory. At the foot of the dead body was Ryoko Tanashi's memory notebook. In that moment, I screamed even louder than before. What the fuck, girl? It's like 8 in the morning. Why are you making me why are you trying to make me scream as loud as possible? I forgot. Fuck off. My notebook had been dropped in that small puddle, even if I convinced myself that this had nothing to do with me. If they found a notebook with my name on it, it would be impossible to convince anyone else. I'd be pulled onto center stage in front of a faceless audience and handed some kind of cruel punishment. This is bad. That reminds me very much of something from Ace Attorney. If you know, you know. My heart began violently pounding once more. Oh, what do I do? What do I do? Everything was breaking down. The world itself was breaking down, crumbling beneath my feet. Speaking of... wait, what the fuck? I had to do something about that notebook before everything completely collapsed. Spurred by that sense of urgency, I took off at full speed. I love how, at a certain point, she just completely, like, no-sold and completely ignored Kamishiro. Hey, big sis, wait! A voice called from behind my back. If you're in trouble, please let me help. If you want to help, tell Matsuda to look for me when he comes back. Bye! I yelled without looking back as I ran through the corridor and out of the dorms. I ran all the way through the South District without stopping to catch my breath and climbed over the iron fence with that same momentum. At full speed, I made my way through the pitch-black darkness and into the central plaza. I ran so fast I didn't even notice my breath was running out. Finally, I reached the fountain once more. I had made it, but... Huh? A strange sense of discomfort ran through my body. I strained my eyes, scanning the scene over and over again. Yeah, something's strange here. I opened my notebook to check my memories again. The one thing I can't trust is my own brain, so when faced with such a discomforting scene, my first thought was to doubt myself, but... I discovered an old man's dead body at the fountain in the central plaza. That memory, properly written down in my oh my god. Yeah, again, I still think it's Junko, and I think she's completely fucking with this girl so hard right now. That memory, properly written down in the notebook, affirmed my gut feeling. The cause of my discomfort was the scene in front of my eyes. There was no dead body, that's why. It was strange to find a body here, and now it's strange not to find one. Strangeness upon strangeness, the very definition of strange. Was he really alive? Was he undead? I didn't understand what was going on, so I scanned my surroundings once more. Something lay at the base of a nearby tree. Is it going to be the notebook? It was the notebook, yep. The one with Ryoko Tanashi's memory notebook written on the cover. Wait, huh? Why is my notebook here? As I considered the thought, I approached the notebook to pick it up. Oh god. Oh god, this is the goat, isn't it? This has got to be the goat. Ta da 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 da. I flinched as I turned around. My body trembled. Standing right behind me was a girl. So you finally decided to show up. She was striking a daunting pose, her arms folded over her chest. She appeared to be around the same age as me. Yep, 1000% this is Junko, because that's the classic Junko pose with her arms under her chest. She had flashy makeup on, as though she had just jumped straight off the pages of a fashion magazine. Her blonde hair was tied into two soft, sizable pigtails. Her cleavage was spilling out of her partially unbuttoned uniform, and her embarrassingly short skirt revealed a pair of long, slender, fair legs. Yes! The GOAT is here! I'm ready for this! I'm so ready for this. I'm so ready for this. At first, she seemed like just a normal, cute girl, but her eyes alone were a million light years divorced from normal. Those deep, dark eyes were like a bottomless swamp, and it almost seemed even the darkness of the night could easily be swallowed inside them. The moment I saw those eyes, warning signals started flashing violently in my mind. Every fiber in my body screamed at me to run away, but at the same time, I was captured by the despair-inducing idea that resistance was futile. In the end, I just stood there, transfixed, unable to move. Oh my god, she's totally in despair. Ryoko is totally gonna fucking fall for Junko's games. I'm so ready for this because we're gonna get to see Junko like actually like work her magic, which we really haven't. Like, we've gotten to see Junko be a goddess and like the GOAT, but we've not actually got to see her like properly manipulate bitches on that level. I mean, we did in Danganronpa 2. Like, she would like really like in both games, but in Danganronpa 2 especially, she was fucking wildin'. Like, her manipulation was so peak in that game. But now we're gonna get to see her like do her thing in like the ways that we've only heard of her doing. This should be interesting. Hey, why are you ignoring me? Are you like a mute character or something? She had a smile on her face, but it was the wicked smile of the all-powerful. The kind flashed at the helpless and weak. I get it. She suddenly raised her voice and thrust her index finger straight at my forehead. I know what you're thinking. I know what you've been thinking ever since you saw me with my arm crossed. You've been thinking, you know, I never really cross my arms like that anymore, but it's not my fault. Some girls' boobs are just too big to do that. So rude. Women who brag about their boobs like that are the worst. By the way, did you know the world's current obsession with boobs is nothing more than a shitty fantasy born out of trash games and anime and late night TV? Ugh, gross. Totally gross. Do you even know what kind of guys are obsessed with boobs? I'll tell you, you know those girls who are considered a hot commodity in their hometowns, and then they go out to the big city where they're not popular anymore, so they end up taking off their clothes for anyone who gives them the time of day? It's the guys who see she's just an airheaded girl with a good ass whose virginity they can take without much work. Those are the ones so obsessed with boobs. Changing the subject for a second, aren't virgins the worst? If it wasn't for the virgin megastores, there would be nothing good about the word at all. Even then, most of them got closed down. And yet it's still a million times better than actual virgins. And what was I talking about? Oh, that's right, the fact that such a big business had to close is... Oh my god. Oh my god. Fuck yes. What the fuck? I mean, she's starting to get interrupted, but oh my god. A fucking tsunami just flew over fucking Hope's Peak. Flew over? I mean, crashed into is, I guess, the terminology I was looking for. Jesus Christ, a whirlwind is the more typical term, but this is a lot more in the fucking whirlwind. Jesus Christ, Junko, you are the GOAT. And she got in a lot of like, because it's Junko, she got in like a lot of crazy commentary in there too. But also like, what the fuck? Literally talking about like, that's an arc that she talked about. You know, the hot girl in the hometown goes to the city, they're not popular enough anymore, and then they just become a fucking slut. And those, yeah, and it's those, the guys who are obsessed with boobs are the ones that see an airheaded girl with a good ass. What the fuck? Like, I'm reading this and it's like, it's so like, how do I put this? Right? There's like a combination of like cruel reality, but almost like this chauvinistic kind of mindset to some degree, because Junko wants to induce despair, right? So part of that with women, right? So with girls, is to degrade them, right? Because she wants to degrade and humiliate everyone, including herself, because that's who she is. She wants to make people feel despair, because despair is her everything, and she wants to share that with the world. She wants to share this pit in her stomach that she feels with everyone. She wants the whole world to eat that despair, to die with that despair in it, that taste of despair in its mouth. I forget the exact quote from Danganronpa 1, but you guys know what I'm talking about. So she's very, I wouldn't necessarily say offensive, although she probably will get, I wouldn't be surprised if she gets offensive, but whatever brings despair is fucking awesome in her mind. So, like, any basically bad thing, anything that would be considered disturbing, gross, fucked up, like, all of those things are literally like a kink for her, because what she's into is nothing. She's not into anything physically. It's all mental. It's all about bringing despair on people. That is her everything. It's her entire characterization, as she's said herself, because she likes to play into the idea of people being characters and all that bullshit. Which is, again, I've talked about this. I've talked about Junko at length and why she's fucking amazing, why she's my favorite character in the series, even though it's, beyond just the fact that, like, I think she's really funny and she's really hot. Like, those don't hurt. The funny part's more of a reason, but neither of those hurt. But the real reason is, I think, conceptually, she's super interesting conceptually, as opposed to what she says of her entire characterization. But that simple characterization comes with it such an interesting philosophical identity of Junko Enoshima, and that's why I think she's such an interesting character. And I think the only character from a psychological an ideological identity that's close to her from an intrigue standpoint is Nagito. Nagito, like Junko, has a very deep kind of identity that's based on such a simple and, basic concept that is flawed in many ways. But the difference between Junko and Nagito is a flawed being who has a flawed identity that he believes to the absolute fullest. Like I said, he's the characterization of Hope's Peak Academy as a character. Like, he is the representation of Hope's Peak Academy and what they represent. Truly represent, not what they say they represent, but what they actually represent. Whereas Junko, it's more complex than that, because she represents the concept of despair. She is the embodiment of despair, right? But how that represents itself is a lot more interesting. There's a lot more flexibility in that compared to Nagito. So the point is, she's the GOAT. And like, when we get like these rants like this, which all of this means nothing, right? It's totally meaningless, but at the same time, like, she's also talking about, like, she's bringing up interesting stuff, but it's completely meaningless drabble to her, to most readers. But at the same time, she finds these things interesting, even if only for a second, because they do, in their own little way, bring despair, right? Like, the girl despairs because she has to use her body to get any attention, right? But then she talks about virgins and the despair of virgins, and well, she was going to, and get into all this stuff, and, boob obsession, and she emphasizes her boobs a lot in the story because there are people who, she finds it very delectable, very despair-inducing that there's people that are obsessed with boobs, and because of that, they're fucking losers. And she likes losers, because losers are, one, easy targets to fill with despair if they're not deep down already feeling despair over how much of a fucking loser they are. So it's like, it all plays into Junko. Everything plays into her Despair King, which is her whole characterization. Anyways. Hey, wait a sec. Ow! Offended that I tried to cut her off in the middle of her rant, like I did. Oh, she presses her index finger into my forehead, making me stop. Oh, please, mommy, mistress, goddess, despair goddess, please, please poke me in the forehead. Oh, thank God. Wait, now I remember. We were talking about the obsession with boobs. You know, I hate being pushy, but you should really drop that boob obsession of yours. What the fuck? And now she's calling out Ryoko? Drop shiz shit obsession. If you prefer en français, I mean, if you don't drop it, they're just gonna be in trouble when you're older. Do you get it? The larger they are, the more they'll sag. Or maybe you're one of those people who end up winning out against the forces of gravity. Can you defy gravity? Is Magneto going to scout you out? Yes, my boy Magneto, one of my favorite comic book characters of all time. But if you guys don't know, my favorite like comic book franchise of all time is the X-Men. So, you know, Magneto, Wolfie, fucking X, fucking, you know, Jean Grey, fucking Rogue, fucking... You know, I can keep going. Deadpool. Like, you can go on and on. I love me some X-Men shit. Which I've actually considered for a while. One day, you know, maybe reacting to, because we probably will eventually get into more, like, animated, superhero-related stuff down the line, like, besides Teen Titans. One of the things I've never actually watched is the old X-Men cartoon. I think from the 90s, which, given I'm a big fan of X-Men, that might be a play one day. Please stop for a second. Ugh! I tried to stop her by being more insistent, but this time she shoved her fingers straight into my mouth. Junko, why are you the goat? And why is this story getting really sexual really fast? Because I kind of think I might need fan art of this. Anyone has fan art of Junko shoving her fingers down Ryoko's throat, I could, my Discord's down below in the description, and you could DM me, and you could kind of give me some of that sauce. But no, seriously, what the fuck? Fire and zeal, por favor. Wait. That's not it. What's that thing you say when you want someone to be quiet? Well, whatever. In any case, shut up and stop interrupting me. I really love talking, you know. You should act like a good mute girl and just stay silent. It's my turn now, so I'm gonna keep fingering your fucking... I'm half surprised she's not saying I'm gonna keep fingering your mouth pussy or some bullshit like that. Like, bro, why is Junko so good? The fuck? She's literally fingering her mouth. I swear to God, if she fucking, like, if she fucking, like, when she pulls out her fingers, she fucking, like, sucks her fingers dry or some bullshit, I'm out. Like, we're ending the video if Junko proceeds to, like, fucking... And once she's done fingering this girl's mouth, she fingers her own mouth and, like, sucks on those fingers. I actually am going to end the video on protest because this character's too much for me. She's always been too much for me, but, like, Jesus Christ, please don't do this to me, Junko. Please do this to me, Junko. But also, yeah, you should act like a good mute girl and just stay silent. Yeah, that's fucking hot, too. What the fuck? I don't understand what you're saying. Saliva started flowing out of my mouth, running through her fingers and dropping in a thin thread onto the ground. She didn't seem to mind at all, though. No, I'm sure Junko doesn't mind at all. I mean, we already know that you just had a lot of different ways to manipulate people. One of those being literally just being like, yeah, I'll be your you know, I mean, we've seen Mikon. That's all I'm going to say. We've seen Mikon. Let's just leave it at that. Hey, Hey. She tilted her head, looking displeased. Don't mumble. Say your name properly. If you don't answer in 3 seconds, I'm going to follow the 3-second rule and rip your tongue out. The worst part is, she's probably not kidding. Holy fuck. I'm just imagining her saying, don't mumble. Say your name properly. This is... Oh my god. Bro, Junko, what the fuck? She hadn't even finished talking when she grabbed my tongue with her fingers. They dug in, gripping like a vice. Okay, 1. She started the countdown. Wait, this isn't a joke? Every pore in my body suddenly opened, making me sweat profusely. Wait, I can't talk if she's holding my tongue. 2. Suddenly, I remembered the notebook I held in my hand. I thrust it out in front of her emphatically. Ryoko Tanashi, huh? But that's too bad. Her mouth curled into a wide, demonic smile as she laughed. I told you to say your name, didn't I? Never said anything about showing it to me. Ah! Well, it's been 3 seconds, so I'll be taking your tongue now. Huh? With every bit of strength I resisted, but her nails cruelly wedged their way into my tongue. Yes, goddess, please do that to me. The iron-like taste of blood mixed with my saliva, and as it filled my mouth, the will to fight rapidly drained from my body. Her eyes, staring blankly into my own, were overflowing with dark despair that seemed to squeeze what hope I had left straight out of me. At that moment, I finally came to accept that resistance was useless. The last of my strength left my body, and my notebook slipped away from my hand. I let my body relax and abandoned hope. That's the thing, right? Like, Ryoko's quick to abandon hope, and Junko got what she wanted. Like, you know, not to say she couldn't find enjoyment from that, but the despair... She didn't need to rip out the tongue to bring despair. For some people, you know, she will have to, but for Ryoko, she doesn't need to go that far. And it's not about... Junko has no limit. She will do literally anything, but it's about despair. Like, everything's about despair in the end. So, she doesn't have to, she doesn't need to. It's not like she enjoys the despair, so it's not like she necessarily specifically enjoys doing anything necessarily. It's anything that brings despair, right? So that's why it's like complicated to even kind of explain that as a character trait, because it's her entire characterization, as she says. So it's complicated. Suddenly I heard a laughing voice. With an ecstatic expression on her face, her cheeks flushed red. She laughed a bizarre, mad, overwhelming laugh. Yeah, she probably is. This is probably her equivalent of like an orgasm, probably. Oh, God. That's the most you're getting. I'm not going all the way with that. 1, I'm going to shoot my voice up. And 2, again, I don't want to get too loud. When that merciless roar of laughter came to a stop, she finally removed her fingers from my mouth. I coughed madly, spit mixing with blood dripping from my mouth. I was totally joking. Come on. Who'd ever want your tongue anyway? What do you think I am, some kind of savage? I bet you're wondering why I do something like that. Honestly, I wanted to see that face of yours. Filled with despair. You see, for me, that's the best kind of introduction you can give. I was still leaning forward, gasping for breath. She wiped her saliva-drenched hands on my back and continued talking in a serious... Okay, thankfully she didn't put those fingers in her own mouth. I would have actually ended the video. I'm dead serious. Like, that would have been too much. It also would have not been enough. Please do that. But still. By the way, I haven't introduced myself yet, have I? A bit surprised, I finally stood upright, and a bad feeling slowly overwhelmed me. My intuition was telling me to stay far away from this girl, but she didn't stop. Instead, she proudly announced her name. My name is Tenkujo Lapita. Probably a reference to some anime. Tenkujo Lapita. Not really, I'm just joking. Is this really the time for jokes? Ah, I know what you're thinking. You're thinking, is this really the time for jokes, right? Oh god, I love it. Oh, I love her. I love you so much, Junko. It was like she could read my mind. Jokes are great, aren't they? It was Ito Hirobumi who said, only a man who has a sense of humor can live in this world without growing mad. You know, that was a lie. Hirobumi never said that. I had no idea how to reply. Instead, I just waited for her to finally tell me her name. For real this time. My name is Junko Enoshima. I go by the title of Ultimate Fashionista. Sometimes I'm a charismatic fashion model with an adoring audience. At other times, I'm a charismatic... Oh, that's still a secret. Sorry. You're not far enough in the timeline or far enough in this story to know my other identity. As she announced herself, she basked in the glow of the street lamps like an actress in the spotlight. Junko Enoshima. Though I couldn't read her thoughts, my own brain understood that I shouldn't get involved with her. My body began acting on its own, without realizing it. I picked up my notebook and wrote her name in it. Oh, you wrote her name. You wrote down Junko's name in your notebook. That means you're going to, at least to some degree, you've committed her to memory, quote-unquote, which might be a bad idea. Might be a really bad idea. Oh, and what's that you're doing? Enoshima asked with a curious look on her face. This is... I hesitated, unable to think of a good enough answer. Oh, come on. Don't tell me you're gonna turn into Mute Girl again and keep it a secret. She puffed her cheeks as if she were a little girl trying to show her frustration. I couldn't help but admire how effortlessly her face moved from one expression to the next. Mute characters have grown out of fashion, you know. Besides, humans have such good conversational skills, so not using them is kind of a waste, don't you think? Yeah, especially you, Junko. Jesus Christ. This isn't a conversation, though. Everything you're saying is too cryptic for... You should address me by my proper name. Haven't I just introduced myself? She chided me in a flat, threatening tone. Miss Enoshima? I haven't understood anything you've been saying. Enoshima-san? Miss? Stop being so formal. I really hate that kind of thing. Enoshima-sama will work. How about Mistress Junko? How about Despair Goddess Junko? Any of those would be fine. No need to be formal. But I just met you a few minutes ago. I shouldn't be rude. Which makes us complete strangers? You're totally wrong. I mean, we're pen pals, aren't we? Pen pals? You read my letter, didn't you? Isn't that why you're here? A letter? What letter is she talking about? I quickly checked my notebook and quickly remembered. And then, as soon as I did, I raised my voice in surprise. So it was you who... That's right! I'm the beautiful kidnapper who took your memories hostage. But why? Hey, you can't just keep asking questions. Think for yourself. So I guess you really wanted to keep me in Matsuda? That had nothing to do with it. I tried my best to think of a reason, and yet she rejected it in one swift and threatening motion. Well, whatever. I just don't feel like telling you yet. Again, I definitely expect... Again, I mean, it's generally bringing despair, but yeah, I think she sees a lot of potential in Ryoko. I think it's pretty basic. But I don't want to assume anything because it's Danganronpa and there could be a huge twist hiding at any moment. And that's what I have to remember. Like, I know there's... Like, given the nature of this series, every piece of Danganronpa media, especially the more mainline ones, I'm expecting at least one huge twist. Based on what I've seen in the first two games, you know there's going to be at least one massive twist. And I'm kind of expecting the same thing for this story. I don't know, like, obviously I have no idea as to what it could be, but like I said, because I don't even think, like, these two being despairs would be, like, a massive twist or anything. These two being Matsuda and Ryoko. Well, whatever. I just don't feel like telling you yet. As she was speaking, Enoshima picked up the notebook that was still lying beneath the nearby tree, ignoring the wet cover and stuffing it into her cleavage. Damn, bro didn't give a fuck. Junko's like, blood? Who cares? It's too bad, but I'm keeping this for a little while longer. I can't let you take it from the crime scene. Hey! Enoshima's eyes suddenly widened in surprise. Huh? Oh my god. Bro, don't do the fucking Makoto. What the fuck? She turned her head to look all around, calling out as if she were mad. It's gone! 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 What's gone? I asked timidly, confused by her sudden change. It's gone! She's gonna go full Monokuma. Gone! Isn't that weird? There's nothing here. Why? She paced around the circumference of the trees, repeating her cries like a broken record. So, tell me what's gone, I pressed again in a stronger tone. Oh, so tell me what's gone, I pressed again in a stronger tone of voice. Ah. She finally turned back toward me, but her face was utterly expressionless. Then she replied, in a light, monotone voice, speaking as though it were something trivial, like a dropped coin. The dead body. The body that was dead. The body that had died that was here isn't here anymore. Huh? Oh. Have you forgotten already? Honestly, even forgetfulness should have its limits. You saw that body yourself, didn't you? A new question came into my head. Wait. How did you know I'm forgetful? Have I told you? That doesn't matter. Anyway, there's no mistake. There was definitely a body here before. Is it not implied? Given the memory notebook, why would Junko respond, like hesitate in her response to that? That was strange. That was very intentional, too. Junko's not the type to hesitate, so... Interesting. Anyways. Enoshima raised her voice, brushing my question aside. You gotta believe me! There was a dead body here earlier. I should know! I killed him myself! Okay, there's your confirmation. Huh? The fucking haws in Danganronpa are the worst. My body suddenly went rigid. I mean, I came up behind him and just hung him up with my own 2 hands, you know? He actually wet his pants a little. Honestly, old men like him should be wearing diapers just in case. If they did, it would have been way more of a relief for... The fuck? Huh? I felt as if a spell of confusion had been cast on me. Enoshima, on the other hand, went on, gesticulating enthusiastically as she spoke. It's a little embarrassing, but some of it got on my skirt, so I had to go to the bathroom to wash it off. But while I was gone, the dead body seems to have totally disappeared. Just slipped away. Well, it's my fault, really. Getting so surprised from a little piss like that. But anyway, that notebook I picked up just now was covered in piss. And she just shoved that shit in her chest. Oh my god, it's Junko. I mean, this is my point, though. It's Junko. So, you know. No limits. I mean, I work so hard so I can make an example out of him. Seriously, who did that? Huh? Hey, you've been doing that for a while now. Are you trying to be like those ditzy characters that are always so popular? I'm typically not a big fan of personally. Huh? Or maybe you're just an idiot. It was useless. Though, thoughts I couldn't even form into words ran around inside my head, causing a terrible, grating headache. I didn't understand a thing she said or did. She just admitted to killing someone, right? Why would she say that to someone she just met? Ah, are you wondering why I'd confess that to someone I just met? She hit the bullseye once more. That should be obvious. You're going to help me. Oh my god. I love how forward she is. This is amazing. A vague yet extraordinary anxiety unfolded over my entire body. Me? Help you? Wait a second. I can't get involved in something like that. Huh? I said, I can't get involved in something like that. Huh? I said, stop stressing out so much. You're ruining your ditzy character archetype. That's not it. In that case, let me ask you a question. Say you're making instant ramen. You put boiling water in and then wait 3 minutes, right? But if someone comes and asks you, how come it's 3 minutes? What's going to be your answer? You can't answer that, can you? My thoughts reached a state of unprecedented turmoil. What are you talking about? Don't change the... I'm not changing the subject. It's just the same. Enoshima countered with a strong tone of voice. I've decided you're going to do what I tell you to. That's just how things are. There's no further explanation. Although, I'm not proud of it, but I always get too impatient and give up before the 3 minutes are up. People think I have a thing for hard noodles, but it's actually nowhere near that complicated. Well, you get it now? You're doing this because I said so. That's it. There's no explanation necessary. Just like true despair, there's no meaning at all. It just is. My cognition clattered and collapsed, and the inside of my brain turned completely to rubble. All that was left was a large number of question marks. I didn't understand her at all. That was the one and only thing I knew for sure. Honestly, it's easier to perform the superhuman feat of making it to the Olympics than it is to understand others perfectly. I know that. But either way, her case was extraordinary. I knew from the beginning that I shouldn't get involved with her. But it's probably not too late yet. That's right, I should run away. Having finally arrived at such a simple answer, I promptly backed away from her, kicked powerfully off the ground, and set off dashing away from danger. And almost immediately, I found myself colliding head-on with Enoshima. She definitely did not teleport, so you're tripping balls or something, Ryoko. What the? I fell down, landing on my behind with such force that my entire body went numb aside from the immediate pain. When I looked up, Enoshima stood on the path, blocking my way. I never even saw her move, and yet she somehow appeared behind me before I even started running. Teleportation? I prefer Shikuchi Jutsu. I kinda like the pop culture vibe, you know? Jesus Christ, this girl. My entire being felt beaten and bruised. No matter what I did, I wouldn't be able to escape her. I might have convinced myself that this had nothing to do with me, but she wouldn't allow such a thought. I think you misunderstand the situation. Don't you think? Enoshima crouched down and peered into my exhausted eyes. Alarms went off everywhere inside my head. I mustn't look into her eyes. Nevertheless, I couldn't avert my gaze from my soon-to-be despair goddess. It's like I told you. It doesn't matter if you want to or not. What matters is what Junko Enoshima wants. That's all. That's why even thinking about running from Junko Enoshima is stupid. The whole world is Junko Enoshima's playground, and everyone in it is just living in it on borrowed time. I don't just mean like what's yours is mine. I mean you yourself are mine. This whole planet is just Junko Enoshima's plaything. Jesus! The fuck? And I will do everything in my power to make it so, my despair goddess. What? It was the most evil, extraordinary, egotistical doctrine. The kind that causes you to feel sick. If she really meant all that, then I have to resent my own lack of luck for running into her. Well, whatever. Getting back on topic, the dead body. As she bounced upright and shifted her weight to the other leg, she directed a new question at me. By the way, do you know what Hope's Peak Academy's steering committee is? Hope's Peak Academy's steering committee? Just to make sure, I checked my notebook, but I couldn't find mention of that phrase anywhere. It seemed I honestly knew nothing about them. But if she's suddenly mentioning it, then... Smells like you haven't. Ah, wrong sense. Do-over! Looks like you haven't. Enoshima spread both her hands in a grandiose manner, as if she were the host of a game show. Ding ding! That's right! The dead body that should have been here was a member of the steering committee. Those guys have way more power than the teaching staff and the headmaster. That means they're practically in charge of the place. Doesn't that get you excited? Clearly the only one growing excited. Probably literally sexually, based on what we've seen in the past. Enoshima continued. But there's no need to grieve. I mean, him getting killed here is just the way things are meant to be. Yep, it was all decided since the very beginning. That's why no matter how much they try to hide that little incident, it's pointless. Incident? I asked without thinking. It was a gut response I can only chalk up to thoughtfulness. The moment it came out of my mouth, I was bewildered by the fact I even asked it. What I love about Ryoko's perspective here with this whole scene is the gravity, the weight, just the horror and brilliance. You know, the terrifying brilliance of Junko Enoshima. It really sells Junko in all her glory. Because it really sells the fact that, like, this is a woman that in every sense of the word you do not want to fuck with. And it's one of those things where it's like, it's a black hole. It's an endless pit. Junko Enoshima is an endless pit that will just take and take and take. And once you fall in, you can, like, you're never coming back out, right? Like, so your only hope is just to not fall in the first place. Because once you're a little in, once one foot's in, pinky toes in, pinky fingers in, you're already done. It's over. It's GG's. So, and I feel like just the horrifying nature of Junko and just how clearly, like, on another level she is as a human being, in all the worst ways, is, like, really being emphasized, because Ryoko can just tell from her aura, from her vibe, from their conversation, everything, just how horrifying she is. And I think this is something that probably all the remnants of despair at one time or another felt, you know, in their interactions with Junko, leading up to where they would end up. Even Izuru. But I can't even imagine what their conversations were like, those two, because he'd be the one person where, like, it's hard to imagine me being fazed by him being fazed by her, but obviously to some degree that was the case, but regardless. Anyways, oh my, you're interested in it. I can't blame you. One can only listen to such a vague name like The Incident so many times before curiosity takes over, right? With that, Enoshima struck a pose, her hands on her hips and her chest puffed high, and declared loudly, "The tragedy of Hope's Peak Academy! That's the incident I was talking about." The moment I heard those words, a strange heat filled my head. What? A tingling sensation paralyzed my consciousness entirely. At the same time, as though manipulated by a puppeteer. Let me fix that sentence. At the same time, while manipulated by a puppeteer, I absent-mindedly wrote those words in my notebook. The tragedy of Hope's Peak Academy. Yep, write down everything you hear. That's a good girl. Enoshima laughed in satisfaction as she watched me. You know, you'd make a great temp, since you always have to write down all the crap they tell you on the first day, but if someone tried to order me to do something like that, I'd send them straight to hell. I'm not even kidding. Straight to hell. First, I'd destroy their family, then their friends and acquaintances, and then when they're fully immersed in despair, I'll wait until they come beg me themselves to kill them. By the way, who are you? I looked up from my notebook in surprise and saw that the scowl on her face had grown considerably. Her scathing eyes cut through me, looking towards something behind my back. I turned around, glancing behind myself, but saw nothing but deep black trees in the night's darkness. Despite my seeing no one, Enoshima faced the darkness and asked again in an annoyed voice. Hey, I asked who you are. Aren't you listening? Suddenly, I saw something moving in my peripheral vision. A moment later, something emerged, swaying up slowly from a gap in the dense foliage. Within the jet black scenery was a white mask. No, it was a human face, as pale as though it were covered in white paint. I don't even know if it's a guy or a girl yet. I could do guy voices easier, obviously, so... Ah, you found me. Along with the voice, a man's silhouette became apparent within the darkness. He had a long, slender body, much like a snake stretching upward, clad in a black school uniform. Pitch black hair matched it, running down past his shoulders, black upon black. The white face, pinking from the inky blackness, had small, thin, lizard-like eyes carved into it. Interesting. My name is Ishiki Madarai. As he spoke, I could hardly see his mouth move. Is that so? That's nice and all, but that's such a lame name. Junko Enoshima is 10 billion times cooler. I took a sidelong glance at Enoshima, who was roaring back at him from behind me. She didn't seem much affected by the situation, and flashed her regular, unnerved, overconfident smile. That is indeed troubling. I have much pride in my name, although that is not the only thing troubling me at present. Oh, and what's that? I was hoping to talk to you when you're alone, but, well, if it's come to this, I guess I have no choice. Muttering between his breath, Madarai withdrew what seemed to be a photograph from his pocket. His lizard-like eyes slid back and forth between us and the photo. I see. So you're Junko Enoshima. And what is your business with Junko Enoshima? She asked without even blinking. I have heard a certain rumor. Was it about how Junko Enoshima is transcendently, hopelessly beautiful with no equal whatsoever in the slightest? That may be the case, but no. Madarai paused for a moment and then continued in a drastically different tone of voice. Well, fuck that. I'm just sticking with one tone. Was Junko Enoshima not involved in the incident? And that's what you want to talk about? I'm sorry, no can do. Enoshima wasn't unnerved in the least, nor did she lose her carefree smile. That's not something a small fry like you has any right to talk about. Know your place, slave. But, I don't know. I don't know what the word she would go with. Bug, insect, you know, insect. I could see her saying bug or insect. I thought you'd say that. Well, I guess I won't get what I want that easily. And what are you gonna do about it? Let me guess, you have ways of making me talk. Kind of old-fashioned, isn't it? That sort of crap only happens in straight-to-video action movies. I may be old-fashioned, but I should tell you that I'm not the type to go easy on you just because you're a woman. Don't expect me to play nice. Madarai's corrosive glare shot through us. Enoshima and Madarai glared at each other in a way that almost made the ground itself shake. This has nothing to do with me, right? This is an issue between the boy who called himself Ishiki Madarai and the girl who called herself Junko Enoshima. I'm not involved at all, so it's okay for my body to stop shaking with fear now, right? Well then, I hope you two are prepared because... Well, wait a second! I raised my trembling voice. Both Enoshima and Madarai turned their eyes toward me at the same time. It's strange that you said you two just now, right? After all, you only have business with... I can't have one of you running away now, can I? Anyone involved with Junko Enoshima is likely to have something to do with the incident themselves, said Madarai, licking his lips. You've only yourself to blame for getting involved with her. I've been hearing nothing but complaints about this girl. And yet, I came prepared for one, and now I have to deal with two. That's twice the labor. But you don't see me complaining, so why don't you just keep it to yourself? What? That was some messed up reasoning. No, it wasn't even close to being reasoning at all. It was just overwhelmingly egotistical. But still not as egotistical as she was, I suppose. I get it. You've definitely got that can-do attitude, but you see, this girl here has a can-kill attitude, said Enoshima, stroking my head. What the fuck is going on? And why do I feel like Ryoko's about to murder Madarai? Wait, what girl is she talking about? Hey, now's not the time to get all ditzy again. I'll see you later. Huh? See who when. Your face just looks like a fur seal's. Like a fur seal's? Okay, that's hilarious. But now's not the time for that. Go ahead and fight him already. That's your role here, you know. Did she say fight him? What are you talking about? I screamed, brushing her hand off the top of my head as I flailed my arms. Oh, it's fine. You're a girl who can do anything when you want to. You can even kill when you want to, you know? Hey now, don't speak with such twisted words. Talking about killing? That's not something healthy high school girls should talk about. Madarai's face became distorted with a wry smile. Oh? You're not a fan of mutual killing? You're not prepared at all! I'm a little disappointed. Oh, God, I got all confused. That was Okay, now I get it. Hey, now, don't speak with such twisted words. Talking about killing. That's not something healthy high school girls should talk about. Madarai's face became distorted with a wry smile. Oh, you're not a fan of mutual killing? You're not prepared at all. I'm a little disappointed. It's only natural. What use are you to me dead? I still have so many stories to hear. At the very least, I'll try to keep your mouths working. Madarai narrowed his lizard eyes even more and repeated himself, emphasizing his words. But just the mouths. Then his slender body stood tall and swayed like the flame of a candle, slowly moving toward us. Huh. I guess he really is eager. Of course I am. I've been waiting for this moment ever since the incident. Madarai held a tightly gripped fist to his chest. It was rugged and coarse, not matching his snake-like body at all. I felt as though being hit with that fist would cave my face in, just like a comic book character. What do we do? What do I do? My eyes filled with tears as I turned to look at the girl behind me. Should have known. It can't really be helped, Enoshima murmured in a low, stiff voice. Then she suddenly shifted back to her loud, unusually empathetic tone. You're up! Oh, wait! Oh man, I'm getting really hungry all of a sudden. So yeah, we're not gonna... This is a long-ass chapter, so we're probably gonna wrap it up here at the end of chapter 6 whenever we finally get through the end of this, because all of a sudden I'm getting really hungry. I'm gonna go get some food after this. Don't worry, you're gonna be just fine. Enoshima pulled me in a hug from behind. I'm going to help you, of course. We'll have you display the full extent of your talent in no time. Oh! Huh? Talent? My talent? Hey, when you're in trouble, shouldn't you be looking in your notebook? Ah, yeah. I turned my eyes down to my notebook, following Enoshima's urges, and then... Whoosh! Crack, bang, boom, thump, thud, bam, 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 bam. Sounds that would be perfectly at home in an anime echoed around me. Reflexively, I looked back up and... What? Enoshima, who was just behind me a second ago, was now a few meters ahead, exchanging violent blows in a fierce battle with Madarai. Kapow! Wham! Bang, 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 bang! Madarai used his long limbs like whips as he attacked. His opponent, the fashionista Enoshima, didn't pull back in the slightest despite her femininity. Where the heck did all of this come from? Hey, don't just stand there like a shocked pig, Enoshima yelled at me, all the while swinging her leg around as though she were a professional gymnast. Get writing! Excuse me? Right then, she delivered a perfect kick, sending Madarai down into the lawn with a short grunt. Instantly, he turned his long body like a spinning top and recovered from his fall before returning with a kick of his own, looking almost as though he were breakdancing. Whoops! Enoshima dodged with a jump in midair, and Madarai took advantage of the opening to rise back up. Without waiting a single second, he delivered a straight right. Even though he seemed too far for the strike to hit, his bizarrely long arms seemed to ignore the distance. Even so, Enoshima blocked and reversed his momentum before thrusting the tip of her right foot directly into his abdomen. Damn. Ugh! A groan spilled from Madarai's mouth, and the two finally stopped moving. Oh, I won. So that was the crescent moon kick. I've been wanting to try it ever since I saw it in a magazine. What the fuck, Junko? Swaying a slight distance from the buckled over Madarai, Enoshima continued to boast while grinning broadly. In any case, what even caused the schoolyard fight to begin? Am I just forgetting again, or was it really just completely out of nowhere? Hey, I told you to stop standing there like an idiot! I was still frozen in place, and Enoshima's irritated voice washed over me. Hurry up and fill in that notebook! Why do you think I'm over here busting my... In a split second, her expression shifted. A high kick as swift as a whip came at her from behind, sending her thin body flying like a scrap of paper. Ugh! I cried instinctively in alarm, turning my gaze to where her body came to a halt. Phew! That was kinda risky. Enoshima brought herself up from a kneeling position as though nothing had happened at all. There was no visible damage except for a red mark on her left arm, where she must have tried to guard against Madarai's kick. Apparently, I wasn't the only one who thought such a blow should have broken her thin arms. I could see the frustration in Madarai's scowl. Scared because I'm so strong? Scared to starting to doubt yourself? That's right, I'm the ultimate fashionista and human weapon who hasn't lost in over 300 fights! She struck a victorious pose. Not sure whether or not she's bullshitting or not, it could really go either way with Junko. Shut up. Brushing away her words in anger, Madarai immediately rushed at her once more. Soon, the battle resumed in full force, with both using their whole bodies, right hand, left foot, rapidly alternating offense to offense, in a hectic exchange of blows. I simply stood watching, unable to move any part of my body but my hand, which was scrawling everything down earnestly in my notebook. Come on. Enoshima let out a series of exaggerated high kicks, as if in response to the one that sent her flying before, but Madarai just twisted his mouth into a grin. He carefully avoided the kicks and then with perfect timing lowered his posture and sprang into a tackle, his long hand stretched forward, trying to take hold of her waist. And with blinding speed, Enoshima's knee sprung up, aiming directly for Madarai's jaw. Ugh! Madarai managed to turn away from his target at the last second, avoiding Enoshima's knee by mere millimeters. Regardless, he lost his balance and thrust his hand toward the ground in an attempt to stabilize himself, leaving the right half of his body open. With an exaggerated "Hi-ya!" Enoshima delivered a spinning kick, which Madarai hastily attempted to guard, and failed. The intense blow struck Madarai's right temple, and with a dry sound, his slender body slid down the lawn. Haha, I totally win. Honestly, I haven't had a dance like that in ages. Enoshima laughed loudly. I guess he was all bark and no bite. He should try going back and relearning the basics. You gotta crawl before you can walk. She continued to cackle and then took out a hand mirror from an inside pocket and started resetting her messy hair. Surprisingly, despite the fierce battle she had just taken part in, her breath was entirely calm. I rushed over to her side and started cheering. You did it! Thank God! For a second there I was really worried. Enoshima's expression changed in an instant. Huh? She gave me a look of utter disgust. Were you even paying attention? You don't think this is settled yet, do you? I mean, that would be an Armageddon-level misunderstanding. What? In the corner of my eye, I caught a shape slowly rising from the ground. It was Madarai. How? Isn't it obvious? That kick shouldn't have sent him flying as far as he did. He just did the same thing I did before. He threw himself back at the same time to reduce injury. Well, I guess I was going too easy on him to begin with. Scratch! The unpleasant sound of scraping metal hit my ears. It seemed to come from Madarai, whose teeth were grinding together hard enough that I almost expected it to cause sparks. He's mad, isn't he? I think he's mad. My attention was fixed on Madarai as I turned my nervous voice towards Enoshima, who stood hidden behind me. It's fine. It's impossible for you to be taken down by someone on his level. Probably. What the fuck are you on about, Junko? At least try to sound convincing, I cried, glancing quickly at my notebook. Never take your eyes off, Enoshima commanded with a sharp voice. Never take your eyes off the prey. That's the basics of the basics. Prey? But I'm the one who's the prey here, aren't I? Madarai kept grinding his teeth as he advanced slowly towards us, arms outstretched. I was shaking in fear like a frightened rabbit in front of a bloodthirsty, poisonous serpent. There was nothing I could do but turn to rely on Enoshima once more. What? Madarai suddenly opened his eyes in surprise. When did she what? A bad feeling loomed over my entire body, and I turned around in fear to look behind me. What did she call it again? I looked at my notebook to remind myself. Right. Shukuchi Jutsu, huh? There was no one behind me anymore. Junko Enoshima's figure, shape, and shadow had entirely disappeared. I'm thinking. This whole thing is so weird. And I have a thought, but I don't... It's too crazy. But, like, I know it's Danganronpa, so it's, like, maybe not too crazy, but I'm trying to work out if it's possible. And if I think it's possible, if I get to the point where I think my theory is possible, I'm going to say it. But right now it's percolating, but I can't quite reason it out. We'll see. I have a crazy theory in my head. You guys might actually be able to figure out what I'm thinking. Because it's not like... We'll see. This scene is making me wonder about something. About Ryoko. Anyways, I'm curious. I want to see her talent. Because I'm assuming we might get that here, because I'm assuming whatever it is going to help her fight Madarai, because otherwise this guy's just going to cook her ass. So, depending on what that is, that might make me feel better about my theory as well. Anyways, it seems you've been abandoned. I heard the voice call from behind me. I slowly turned back around to find Madarai suddenly standing right before me, looking down with vicious eyes. But there is no need to resent anyone. I shall settle things properly with her later. It is just the order that changed, that's all. Having been handed what sounded like a death sentence, I came to realize the fundamental error that occupied my thoughts until that moment. I was an idiot for thinking I could rely on Junko Enoshima, but this was no time for complaints. I had it to do something. Then, as my faltering eyes turned down to my notebook, I heard Madarai's voice from above. Huh. You must be really confident to read a notebook at a time like this. That's... I couldn't even bring my head up again. I couldn't even grasp the content of what I was reading, but I still flipped through the pages. I couldn't find a breakthrough solution to my problems, but I did my best to come up with an excuse to give me some time. Wait, please. You said you were investigating the tragedy of Hope's Peak Academy, didn't you? In that case, I won't be much help to you at all. I mean, I know absolutely nothing about that. How did you know that, then? Madarai's voice turned to ice and made me shiver even harder. Know what? All I said before was that I was looking into the incident. Nevertheless, you seem to know I was talking about the tragedy of Hope's Peak Academy. I looked up. The sharpness in Madarai's eyes seemed to grow tenfold. My first thought was to escape the piercing gaze, so I looked down at my notebook again. You see, I just heard that name recently by accident. I didn't know it was an actual thing. Few people here know the name given to the incident. Very few. The fact that you said the name with so little hesitation means you really are suspicious. Guess I hit the jackpot. I didn't even need to look anymore to see the cruel, twisting smile in his snake-like eyes. A shiver ran down my spine, and my arms and legs went stiff. I was completely paralyzed. It's over. I can't say for sure, of course, but this was probably the first time in my life that I was fully conscious of my own mortality. My mind went completely blank, and Matsuda, I really do love him. But of course, the memories don't come pouring in like scenes on a rotating lamp. What I remember are just feelings, after all, and so I whispered his name again and again inside my heart and tried to remember. Matsuda, 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 Matsuda. Huh? Let's try that again. Matsuda, 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 and there's a phone ringing. Huh? It's strange. I don't feel any better. I can't remember? Okay, this is just a weird call from something claiming to be Xfinity. Probably not. For several reasons. But anyways, ignoring that call. Can't remember? Suddenly my entire body felt like static. I was assaulted by an unprecedented sense of fear and loneliness when I realized I couldn't remember Matsuda. Is this what loss feels like? This Junko's fault? It was a hellish feeling like I never felt before. A terrible feeling, as if my body were being torn apart and eaten by 1,000 demons. What is it? Your face is terribly pale. Eh? The second I looked back up at Madarai, I understood what was happening. The fear cast over me by the man that stood before me had taken control over all my emotions. That's why I couldn't remember my feelings for Matsuda. You look like someone's about to attack you. He cackled at his own awful joke. Matsuda, Matsuda. Even swallowed by dread, I continued whispering his name inside my heart. I whispered desperately over and over again, trying to keep any semblance of fear from showing on my face. Matsuda's name had become a prayer. I want to see Matsuda's face. I want to hear Matsuda's voice. I want to smell Matsuda's scent. I want to touch Matsuda. I want to meet Matsuda. I want to meet Matsuda. I want to meet Matsuda. Suddenly, something changed. My heart leapt and began to beat loudly, and blood pumped through my body at breakneck speed. A sudden sense of warmth melted the fear that was keeping my body frozen. I want to meet Matsuda. I repeated the mantra several more times and soon completely forgot the fear that was controlling my feelings. I want to meet Matsuda. 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 Madarai quickly perceived the sudden change and put some distance between us immediately. Despite his looks, he was a cautious man, and somehow I had to regain my composure enough to make that observation. Keeping collected, I turned back to read my notebook once again from the beginning. My eyes stopped on the very first page. There was an explanation regarding my talent written there. It's strange that I'd never noticed it until now. It must be the power of love Matsuda granted me. I'm going to meet Matsuda. I'm going to meet Matsuda. I'm going to meet Matsuda. It was no longer just my heart's desire. It was my entire purpose reigniting a flame within me. You, move now. Oh, you, move now, I declared to Madarai, raising my head from the notebook. I'm going to meet Matsuda. Who the hell is that? Never mind then, what made you liven up so fast? Love, of course, I cried in triumph, without the slightest bit of shame. The power of my love for Matsuda. I agree that love is not something to be trifled with. It drives people to do insane things at stupid times, but even so, you're making no sense. What the fuck is going on? Madarai is... The way Madarai's acting is making me wonder if I'm right. God, I'm actually going to have to say this theory soon at this rate. Madarai is really, like, confusing here. And, like, Madarai is also the reason why I don't think this makes sense, the thing that I'm thinking. But I need to see how this goes. I need to see what happens. In any case, don't stand in my way. I scowled firmly at Madarai. Like, Madarai is like a... He's a loose end in my theory that I think makes my theory not make sense. Or maybe you're just desperate now. That would be a bother. You can never know what desperate people are going to do. It doesn't matter if they're weak or strong. It's always a bother. Shut up and move already. You're truly a strange woman. He leaned slightly forward and crouched into a low posture. He must have been preparing a counterattack, but that has nothing to do with me. Something like that cannot hope to extinguish the red-hot flame burning inside me. I'm going to meet Matsuda. I'm going to meet Matsuda. I'm going to meet Matsuda. I stepped forward, defenseless but determined, my hand still holding the open notebook. In response, Madarai lowered his center of gravity even further and drew a fist back to his waist. He was ready, though it didn't seem like he was willing to make the first move. He was extremely alert. I was right. He really did have a cautious personality, but no, because of that. I stopped mid-stride, loudly asserting myself. Checkmate, Ishiki Madarai! Oh my god. Fucking ultimate. Bro, I swear to God, if it's some dumb shit, like, I'm the ultimate chess player, and thus I'm, like, the big brain queen, or some shit. What the hell? That's a rather lame thing to say. It's checkmate, Ishiki Madarai. I couldn't think of anything else to say, so I repeated the same declaration. Like a wild animal about to pounce, I slowly lowered my own center of gravity, much like Madarai had. I concentrated my entire body's strength into my two legs, and as soon as it had all accumulated... I'm wondering, though, before... because we're going to reveal it soon. All jokes aside, though, I think I'm not far off when I say that, jokingly. I wonder... It's the fact that she has the memory issues I always was... You know, like, she has... And they've already confirmed it's, like, mental. So it's probably something that, like... She is, like, a genius. Like, she has some sort of... And that, some sort of, whether it's an ability to kind of, I doubt it's going to be anything as stupid as predicting the future, but, like, you know, like, some crazy, like, next level, like, loosh type bullshit in terms of, like, this character, I bet you, is going to be, like, that type of genius. I released it all at once. I kicked the ground violently with every bit of stored energy I had and began running with explosive force in the other direction, away from Madarai, who was still on the alert. Hey! I heard Madarai's bewildered voice far behind me. It seemed he was fully unprepared for something like this. As my feet carried me, I opened my notebook again and checked the first page that explained my talent one more time. That's right. This is my talent. My one and only way to come out of this situation winning. I don't remember it, though, so it still doesn't feel quite real. After a short while, I could hear the footsteps not far behind, chasing me. In that moment, I decided to put my predictions to the test. Oh my god, it is gonna be... She's like a supercomputer, isn't she? She's gonna, like, calculate everything. Oh my god. In that moment, I decided to put my predictions to the test. What was the man chasing me thinking right now? I'm pretty sure he's thinking something like, I don't get this girl at all. Oh my god. Oh my god. Bro. Oh my god. I might have to fucking... let me just verify real quick. Oh my god. That guy is exactly how they described him. Holy shit. And yo, yeah, look at her. Look at the fucking the equations or whatever. Okay, yeah, that's a cool place to end it off. That's where we're ending it off. That's a really cool picture. That's some cool art. And we are also apparently 25% through Danganronpa 0. So at this rate, we are officially a quarter of the way done. Holy shit. I think I just figured out who she is. I think my theory is right. So this is the... Okay, now I have to tell you guys the theory. I can't wait any longer. I have to talk about this. Okay. I think... Oh, I got chills. My nipples are getting hard, too. There's a lot of question marks. I still need to figure out, like, how does Madarai's perception of this scene exist? But we have seen everything from... It's very important that we've seen everything from Ryoko's point of view. Ryoko's POV and just the point of view in general is very important. Yo! Matsuda! Oh my god. Okay. This might be a long outro. We have a lot to talk about because I have a lot of theories flying through my head. But before... I need to say the theory, and then I can talk about all the possibilities that branch out of this. So... Ryoko. She has a note sent to her. She's told to show up and meet someone that we find out is Junko. She has this very interesting meeting with Junko. All of that scene was very interesting for many reasons. But there's a lot of little hints that have been implying, and I've kind of even said while we've been reading, where that whole conversation felt off to me. Like, Junko being Junko was god tier, of course. She is the despair goddess for a reason, but there's just something wrong about this. And there were a few moments, like the moment where, where Junko even hesitated for a second, and that was kind of weird. Junko's playing this game with her, which, to be fair, that's just Junko being Junko, but then Junko starts fighting Madarai and is, like, telling Ryoko, like, don't worry, you got this. Don't worry, use your power. Don't worry, just all this bullshit, right? Like, she's pushing her in this direction, and all that, and like I said, there's just all these little hints, and I'm doing a really bad job of explaining this, but there's all these little moments in the conversation between Junko and Ryoko that don't make sense. The biggest thing is the teleportation jutsu. The teleportation jutsu obviously is not really happening. Like, obviously Junko can't actually teleport, right? But the fact that Madarai perceived it, but he perceived it through Ryoko's point of view. Ryoko is perceiving Junko disappearing, reappearing, popping up out of nowhere. This all sounds pretty crazy, right? It'd be funny because I remember there was a serial killer in Danganronpa 1 who had a split personality. Junko is really, really smart. Really, really smart and very, very clever, and seems to always be 3 steps ahead. That is one of the biggest takeaways from the first 2 games. That would make a lot of sense if she had a special talent or ability that directly attributed to that, or perhaps a alter ego of hers did. You know, it would be interesting if somehow, some way, Ryoko Otonashi and Junko Enoshima are two different identities, or perhaps, you know, more accurately, two different personalities for the same person. Mukuro Ikusaba. You know, it's interesting, but in the first game, Junko brought up that she didn't want, that it was too boring, and she didn't care explaining why Mukuro and Junko had different last names. Now, this doesn't directly tie into that, but could it be as simple as Ikusaba is Junko's legal last name? And whatever nonsense. Now, how this is working in the context of the academy, how she's living these separate lives, I have no fucking clue. But could it be that simple? Now, that might be overstretching it, but could the Ikusaba be her quote-unquote original personality, and Ryoko and Junko are other personalities, right? Maybe stretching too far here. But the point is, to backtrack, I think Ryoko and Junko are the same person, and the line, and the very last line of chapter 6, just, it clicked in my head, because Ryoko predicted what Madarai was thinking. Just like Junko does. And it just hit me like a ton of bricks when she did that. Bro, I just, I was entertaining this in my head, but the moment she said that, my mind just exploded. And there's been, like I said, there's been a lot of little hints. I don't necessarily... It would be... So, here's the thing, right? One of these days, I gotta be right. One of these days, I gotta get one of these massive Danganronpa plot twists right. That would be nuts. But here's the thing. It goes deeper. Matsuda. Matsuda knows the truth. And loves Ryoko so much that he wants to hide, and he wants to protect Ryoko at all costs. But I think Matsuda knows that Ryoko and Junko are one and the same, and that Junko is Junko. So, Junko, like I said, so I'm trying to think of specific examples where that could play into it. Junko called out Ryoko for having a boob obsession. We know that Junko has a boob obsession. Like, it's this weird, like, self-commentary. Like, and of course Junko would do shit like that, because that's so Junko. Bro, if this is... And, like, looking at Ryoko, like, bodily, like... Maybe. Like, you know, I mean, it's weird to see, it's, because she does have a nice chest, for sure. I mean, it's not emphasized the way Junko's is. Junko, you know, pushing it up a bit and whatever, but, like, I feel like it's possible. Oh, man, you guys are gonna fucking laugh at me for this one. This one... I'll say this. I'm going to probably backtrack a little bit here. At the very least, I'm convinced that Ryoko has a connection to Junko, besides what Junko's, like, said of, like, you're mine now and all that bullshit. But even that, like, in the context of Ryoko and Junko being the same person, just two different entities, within the same human. Human in quotes, because Jesus Christ, Junko. That makes a lot of sense. I mean, Junko's simply saying is taking over, and you know, it just, there's like a lot of things that make perfect sense, and even her memory lapses could have to do, and her memory issues could have to do with Junko, you know, taking over, Junko whatever. Like I said, the biggest hurdle is appearance and identity. The fact that, like, she's fully, you know, Junko Enoshima and Ryoko Tonashi are two separate students at the school. You know, Ryoko's got the red hair, you know, that kind of like that Urza hair, that Kurisu hair, or whatever. I can't explain that. I don't know exactly how that works. Now, Ryoko is almost always just in her room, quote unquote. So the time frames work out, but there's a lot of question marks here if this is the real deal. But anyways, I had to get that off my chest. It was bothering me. I was thinking about it, and when I saw that last line, I just had like the fucking moment where it was like, oh my god. She did a prediction, but it hit me that Junko does that, and I'm like, oh my god, this is amazing. If that is the twist, though, what the fuck? What the fuck, Danganronpa 0? But they've been hinting at that the whole time. The more I think about it, they've been hinting at this the whole time. I'm kind of convincing myself. This isn't nearly as obvious, though, as, like, Danganronpa 2 and, like, the virtual world. Because, like, that they were, like, hammering in your head. And it was just, like, it was so obvious that it made me question it. But at the same time, like, it was still my theory pretty much the whole game. This one, oh, it's the fucking, I can't get that line out of my head. It's the fact, it's not even the fact that Junko does that. They made a point to have Junko do it to Ryoko. They made a point to emphasize that Junko does that in the same chapter. I am either a fucking psychopath or I'm a fucking genius. Hopefully I'm both. And hopefully Junko will shove her fingers down my throat. Anyways, that was a great chapter. I really enjoyed that. I had a lot of fun with this chapter of Danganronpa 0. These chapters, 4, 5, and 6. This is going to be a much longer video. This is going to be not 3 hours. It's going to clock in a little under 3 hours, it looks like. But it's going to be very close to that 3-hour mark. So this ended up being, like I said, a much more, I guess, kind of regular Danganronpa session. I'm not entirely sure what these Danganronpa 0 videos are necessarily going to look like. I want to, if possible, and we're 25% through, so at this pace we would have 6 more videos, but I want to finish in no more than about 8 or 9 videos, so hopefully we can at least keep this pace or more. Now, obviously this was a weird one because chapter 6 was really long compared to chapters 4 and 5, so it was another thing where, you know, certain chapters were much shorter, but if I can get at least 3 chapters in, I think we'll get there. But what's more important is the actual completion percentage, and we did get 25% completion of this story, so we're now a quarter of the way there. So at that pace, episode 8 should be the finale, but whatever the case may be, hopefully we're able to keep up at least this pace and continue working our way through Danganronpa 0. Because this story is really interesting, and I'm convinced that Ryoko and probably Matsuda are like despairs and toys of Junko, and she's fucking with them hard. And I really like the idea that Junko, because that's the thing. If Ryoko is Junko, as crazy as that would be, it makes Matsuda's character make so much more sense. Because I think he knows if this is true. And that would explain the way he was acting with the steering committee and just in general, right? And I think like that would explain a lot about that. And we'll see. It's also possible that he, you know, if there is an alternate personality, whether Junko or otherwise, that he doesn't know, but there's like I said, like he thinks that she did something when really it was Junko that did it. Like that type of thing could happen. And if this is the case, the more I think about it, actually, regardless of whether Junko and Ryoko are the same person, I really need a scene between Matsuda and Junko. That would be sick regardless. But if she is the same person, holy shit, do I need a scene between Matsuda and Junko. I'm so curious, but that was awesome. That was great. That was great. And obviously we're gonna be, when we jump back into to Danganronpa 0, we're gonna get a pretty dramatic chase scene potentially between Madarai and Ryoko, and we're gonna get to see Ryoko's like prediction powers or whatever it is. We'll probably get the official explanation in chapter 7, so I'm really looking forward to that. And as we get to see more of her in action, if I can, kind of further make the parallels, because I'm exposing myself as a dumbass. I'm all in. I'm all in on this theory, this prediction. I think it makes sense. I think it's not that much of a reach. I probably am reaching, but it would explain a lot. When you think about what we've read in this story so far, and when you also think about why has this character not come up, right? I had this theory from really early on when we were introduced to Ryoko. I was like, could she be a remnant of despair? Could she be one that we've already met, right? And I thought about that because I was like, there's going to be, because I was already kind of thinking in the mind of, oh, could she somehow be Sonia? Could she somehow be, these other girls, right, from DR2? And it never even crossed my mind that she could be the despair goddess herself. Like in early on, that never even crossed my mind. But today, as we've been getting, especially with that conversation with Junko and Ryoko, suddenly it dawned on me that I never even considered Junko herself. And now that we had the interaction between the two of them, and the way the whole Madarai thing goes, I'm wondering how much of this is happening in her head. And that's why I'm very curious what's going to happen to Madarai. Because, like, if she somehow manages to kill him, that would, like, make me even more confident that she's Junko. Because he's going to be, like, how he perceived this, what he actually saw in his POV, none of that matters if she just ends up killing him somehow. It doesn't seem like that's her intention, but it's hard to know what's going to happen and where she's going to go with this. But if he manages to wind up dead, that ties a loose end in my theory. Because right now he's a loose end for a couple reasons, but I don't know how this is going to go, so I don't know. Again, and that's another thing that's always in my mind is with these characters is we've never met them, and then my initial assumption is, why have we never met them? That's why I'm thinking, like, a lot of these characters I'm expecting to either die, or in the case of Ryoko, yeah. And it makes, and I didn't even bring this up yet, Junko, she plays different characters. She fucking plays different characters. She plays Monokuma. She has the different versions of Junko. Like, there's a lot there that is very interesting if we consider the possibility that she herself has split personality. Isn't that interesting? Or DID, Isn't that just so fucking funny? That's the type of thing that, and I forgot his name. God damn it, I forgot his name. But the Danganronpa creator, that's the type of bullshit that he would fucking find funny. Dude, I've fucking gassed myself up. I think I've convinced myself. And this is also actually going to be over 3 hours, despite what I said before. So, that's lovely. But, yeah, this was a really cool episode. I really enjoyed, like I said, I think obviously my favorite part was the Junko and Ryoko conversation. But I also really liked the scene with the steering committee, Jin and Matsuda. I thought that was a really cool scene. I think it really showed the reverence that the steering committee and really Hope's Peak has for talent, and the fact that, like, they really, you know, this guy, you know, like, when Matsuda gets angry, they really, like, fear it, and they're like, holy shit, like, this presence, like, he's special, he's better than us, right? And that's kind of the weird dichotomy of it, is it's very Nagito-esque in the sense that the steering committee thinks of themselves as lesser than the students, because they're not they're not the chosen ones with the blessed individuals with the chosen talents, the better people, right? So it's very interesting how that all works out, and I'm very curious how this is gonna go, and I'm very excited for that, especially now that one of the members, because that's the other thing, even after we get this whole thing with Madarai resolved, whatever happens, whether she gets away and that's the end of that, which I don't think makes sense given the fact that, like, identities are kind of out there and all that shit, but whatever happens with him, a member of the steering committee just died. Junko just killed a member of the steering committee, which is very important, and then the body disappeared, which we still have no explanation for that either. So there's a lot going on. There's a lot of weird things that were happening, and it is very interesting that she goes there at 1 a.m. She finds the dead body, she runs away, and she comes back. Meanwhile, Junko killed the guy, went and washed the piss off of her, literally washed the piss off of her, and then came back. It's funny how mentally all of that lines up with just Ryoko not perceiving the situation differently than it probably is actually happening. So it's so interesting. That is such a mind fuck if that's what they're doing. Oh, that's so interesting. I think I'm right. The more I talk about it, the more right I think I am. It makes so much sense. Bro. Oh, God. And then even Danganronpa 0, the main character being Junko, quote unquote, like, that makes all the sense in the world if that's where we're going. There's so much. It's all circumstantial, but it all fits. It's all circumstantial, though. I don't have any hard proof. But there's a lot of hints. Anyways, I need to stop talking about this. I'm going to literally be here another hour ranting and raving about what I think is a crazy theory that it might have some validity to it. Anyways, like I said, and I'm also hoping that that's the case, because, like, the potential for this with Matsuda especially, they could do some fire with this. But I'm probably wrong, because it's been a while, though, since I've gotten this, like, I'm really convincing myself that I think I have this, and we'll see. We'll see. But anyways, I think that's all I got. Like I said, I really liked the Junko Ryoko scene. I really liked the Matsuda scene with the steering committee and Jin. So those were really cool. And of course, just the general interactions between Matsuda and Ryoko are always fun. And I'm excited to see Ryoko's talent in action and see her run/combat Madarai and see how well she deals with him, his creepy looking ass. Now that we have a visual of his, we got to see that at the end of chapter 6, so that's cool. But anyways, I think that's gonna do it for my second reading of Danganronpa 0. This was chapters 4 through 6. So next time we'll start with chapters 7 and see how much we do. But whatever the case may be, if you guys want to support the channel, my Patreon's down below in the description. My Discord is as well. And yeah, if you guys want to hit me up, hang out there, but also if you guys want to get in touch with me, DMing me on Discord is probably your best bet. Anywho, yeah, without any further ado, it's time for me to bid you adieu. Flamin' Shark signing out. Hope you guys have a wonderful, fantastical day, and I'll see you next time with another video. Thanks for watching. Peace.